Well, good evening. It's that time of day where we must get started. I apologize running a couple of minutes late with a little bit of technical difficulty here. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. When speaking, please speak directly into a microphone to ensure everyone listening is able to hear your comments and to ensure a clear record is made. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and current guidelines from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in a record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday before the meeting. The public will also have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the fifth floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comments will be allowed during each agenda item. Public comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. And they should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call this meeting of the Economic Development and Finance Standing Committee for July 8th, 2024 to order, and I'll ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call. Wakes. Lopez.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Stites. Townsend.
Here.
Burrows.
Here. Thank you, committee. I'm sorry, was Mr. Wakes on Zoom?
He is not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we do have a quorum. Thank you. Revisions to tonight's agenda. Are there any revisions, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there was an agenda update adding item number 4 to the committee agenda, which is a discussion on the City Hall Lofts, City Hall Place.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Committee, I'm assuming you have the update blue sheet that was passed out. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wakes. Just getting started. Let the record show Mr. Wakes is present. Okay. All right. Committee, we have 4 items before us this evening. Item number 1 is a resolution to amend the assignment assumption of second amended and restated development agreement. This is the 3rd amendment to the agreement of the restated development agreement for Home Field. Oh. And committee, just so we usually do the minutes, but it has been noted that there are no minutes for this month to approve. That's why I jumped right on into the regular agenda. The first item is an action item, and I don't see who is supposed to be covering that this evening on the agenda.
This is Wendy Green with Legal. I can give you a brief synopsis and then introduce Kevin Wimpy, our bond counsel.
Please.
Items number 1 and 2 are somewhat related. Actually, the gist of this is that the state has come back and said that rather than just giving a certain percentage of the sales tax revenue from Menards, they will now give 100% of the sales tax revenue from Menards towards the bonds for that area. And those are going to fund the home field project. So because of that, we now, I believe that's correct, and Kevin will correct me if I'm wrong. So because of that, we now have to redo our documents to reflect that new percentage that the state is going to contribute to the bonds. And so there's really nothing that we're doing differently. This is just us fixing our documents to match what the state's doing. But Kevin Wimpy will be able to describe that better.
And before I go to Mr. Wimpy, if I'm to understand, the state's 100%, we still only, we're still in it for the percentages that were within the contract.
Correct.
Okay. Please, Mr. Wimpy.
Thanks, Wendy. And good afternoon. I'm Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell, the Unified Governments Bond Council. And thanks for the lead in. That was a really good summary. But again, items 1 and 2 are linked together. I will probably start more on item 2 because it's the operative document between the unified government, the state, and the bond trustee for the 2022 STAR bonds for the home field project. And item number 1 is really the agreement between you and the private developer of the home field project that tags along with that operative document. So if you recall, in the 2022 STAR bond issue to finance home field improvements, at that time, the state and local sales tax were pledged to repayment of those bonds. And as Wendy said, during the negotiations to that, the state reserved 20% of the Menards revenues to go to the general fund. So for every dollar of state sales tax revenue generated by Menards, 80 cents went to bond repayment and 20% was supposed to go to the state's general fund. After discussions with the developer and the state, the developers requested that we amend the tax distribution agreement is the operative document that sets the rules and instructs the state on where those funds should go to provide that 100% of those Menards revenues will now be funneled to repay your 2022 STAR bonds. So we're increasing the revenues that will be available to repay those STAR bonds. There was the potential for future borrowing based on those revenues, but the developer decided it was advantageous for its capital stack to instead pledge these revenues towards your existing 2022 STAR bonds. And so again, item number 2 is authorizing the amendment with the state to provide that direction to the state and the bond trustee to administer in that manner. And item number 1 memorializes this change in the development agreement between the unified government and the home field developer. That's it for prepared remarks. Happy to try to address any questions you might have.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yeah, where's this agreement? Has anybody read this agreement?
Right. So we've coordinated the amendment to the agreement was drafted by Todd LaSala, the UG's outside development counsel. And it's the 3rd amendment to the agreement. So this goes back, I think, 4 years at this point to the original agreement with the home field developer.
Okay, that's why I haven't. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, council. Just wanted to make sure I understood that this is the state of Kansas that has decided that it is going to grant additional funds, not the unified government, but the state of Kansas that is saying you can get these additional tax revenues to help with your payment, home fields.
Exactly.
So the UG its citizens are no worse off. There's no net change, no negative impact, no impact at all to us.
Correct. And it financially, if there are additional state revenues coming in, which there will be when this is signed, hypothetically, there would be fewer local sales tax dollars going to repay those bonds should they pay off early, and the state revenues actually pay off more of the bonds than would otherwise be paid with the other tranche of revenues, if that makes sense. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Lopez, again?
Yeah, I'm sorry, how much are they borrowing on this?
So this, Commissioner, this relates to the 2022 STAR bonds, which were approximately $115 million of net proceeds. So this is not a new bond issuance. This is amending the documents relating to the 2022 tranche of STAR bonds.
Mr. Wakes?
Yes, for clarity, point of clarity. When we issue STAR bonds, those are sales tax revenues. Those come directly from the sales and they go directly to the state. All of our sales tax anyway goes to the state. Is that correct?
Correct. So within the STAR bond district, so it's the sales tax collected within certain areas of the STAR bond district where the project's located.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Wimpy, it's the 80% that was in the original contract now goes to 100% on the state side. The time doesn't start over to add additional time to the contract, does it? It has to still be paid off within the 20-year time frame. And this allows an earlier payout and, or as you stated, a capital stack. I like that word, by the way. It allows them to identify additional resources should they need to advance their project on a higher scale.
Yeah, correct. Nothing else changes, just the state pitching in an additional 20% of those Menards revenues.
And in no way is the residents of Wyandotte County held responsible for a repayment of these bonds, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions from the commission? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk if there are any hands raised by the public who wish to speak.
No hands are raised at this time.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? Let the record show no one stepped forward. I'll ask the clerk if anybody contacted us by email.
No comments were received.
Thank you. I would now entertain a motion for approval. And legal, this is 1 and 2 are tied together. So I would say we start with 1 because it's on the agenda that way,
Correct.
and we'll go to number 2.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, I'd entertain a motion to
Move for
adopt.
approval. Wait a second.
We have a motion and a second for item 1. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Wakes.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites. Townsend.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. Item number 2, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve item 2 is submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Wakes.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites. Townsend.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Committee, moving right along, this is item number 3. It's a resolution, and I hope I pronounce this name correctly. Meese Wholesale Meats Industrial Revenue Bonds. The last item on our agenda, it's not our last item, next to last item on our agenda is the adoption of a resolution approving issuance of industrial revenue bonds in the amount of $17,450,000 for Meese Wholesale Meats located at 6036 Speaker Road. I will recognize Wendy Green for an overview, please.
Yes, I will give a synopsis of this. We do have the developer here with, as well as Greg Kendall with Wyandotte Economic Development Corporation, but Wyandotte Economic Development, but what this is there's going to be the IRBs, which is for a partial property tax abatement, as well as for sales tax on the materials, construction materials. We also have Kevin Wimpy here. And then there's also going to be a 10-year pilot, and it is a graduated pilot. And we also have the approval of a performance agreement, which is similar to a development agreement.
Okay.
But we do have Kevin Wimpy here, as well as the developer, to explain this fully.
And Wendy, just for clarification, I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You say there's a property tax abatement
Mhm.
and the IRBs and a pilot?
The IRBs are for, and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong on this, the IRB is for property tax abatement and sales tax abatement on construction materials, but the pilot goes hand in hand with that. So when the property tax abatement concludes on the IRB, when the IRB is done, then the pilot, it's a graduated one, so there's no shock value at the end of it, if that makes sense. And he can explain it fully.
Please. Welcome.
Hello again, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell, the Unified Governments Bond Council. I think what we'll do, I think we had a slideshow queued up from the developers. I'd like them to give them a chance to introduce themselves and their project, and then I'll probably wrap up with the usual legal aspects and schedule upcoming and try to answer any collective questions you might have. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come here, and I appreciate everybody's time this evening. My name's Todd Fender. I'm the CFO for Meese Family Foods. We are a wholesale distributor of meat, pork, chicken, beef, and food service products. Our revenues for 2023 were about $120 million. We currently are in a 22,000 square foot facility. And for about the last 18 months, we've had to go to the outside to store a significant amount of our product. And as we took a look at where we were going to be and where we wanted to go, it became apparent to us that we needed to have more space. And so we started looking around at areas where we could build this, our new facility. And we came from, I've been with the company since 2012. We came from Kansas City, Kansas previously. Meats Wholesale Meats was over there in Kansas City, Kansas. And for different reasons, they had to move out of their building, came over to where we were in North Kansas City. And we've had significant growth in the 10+ years that I've been with the company. And we continue to grow, and we've been limited, as I said, by our space. And so we're moving from a 22,000 square foot facility to about a 78,000 square foot facility, which will allow us to, just buy more product and keep it on hand. So.
Is there a PowerPoint presentation?
It's traveling through cyberspace right now. to make sure we
Okay.
Have the most updated one, and I know Ms. Sparks is working on pulling that up right now.
Well, here, I will, my owners, Ryan Ham and Paul Meese, and then Braden is our project manager with Arco. And Paul's father started the business back in 1968, so we celebrated 50 years in 2018, and he started it out of a milk truck or out of his house, and so it's grown over all these years to become what, more than just a small family business. And so I don't, we service the Kansas City area. We go all the way out to as far as St. Louis, and we go all the way out west, past towards Lawrence and Topeka. We're projecting sales growth of 8 to 12% over the next 3 to 5 years. And all our operations will be consolidated in this one building. We have this one building in North Kansas City now, but all of our operations will be consolidated and moved over to this new facility. It's 9 acres of land that we're looking to build on, 78,000 square foot building. I think there's a rendition of the building itself up there now. Building improvements forecast to be approximately $14.5 million. We've currently got 37 employees. We're looking to add 15 new jobs within the next 3 years. We offer full benefits, including medical, dental, 401k, PTO. We're going to be bringing all of the equipment that we've currently got there, plus we will have to purchase new equipment to handle our additional volume. Yeah, that's about all I've got on there right now. If anybody's got any questions, I don't.
Mr. Whip, you have anything you want to add before I go to commission questions?
If you don't mind, I'll do the quick 90 seconds on the usual IRB
Okay.
aspects, and then we can attempt to field any questions, and maybe the PowerPoint. I think there's a rendition in there that might be worth looking at to supplement the presentation so far. But this is your typical buy your own bond IRB application submitted for the sole purpose of providing a property tax abatement and sales tax exemption on construction materials and furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So the unified government's not responsible for repayment of the bond and has no credit impact to the UG. Again, it's solely for the purpose of providing these tax incentives. Wendy previewed this a little bit, but this is a minor change to what you've seen in some recent property tax abatement applications where there's a graduated payment in lieu of tax schedule. And what's approximated here is, rather than a smooth, flat 50% abatement or whatever the applicable abatement percentage is, instead the abatement starts at a deeper abatement, I believe approximating 90% in the first couple of years, ending at about 15% in the out years. In the aggregate, though, it's intended to represent a 50% abatement. It's just that early on, the property taxes will be quite a bit lower under that payment in lieu of tax schedule, gradually increasing to something nearer to a full property tax payment. The resolution of intent approves execution of a performance agreement, which has all the typical covenants you're used to seeing in these agreements, including timeline for beginning construction and completing construction no later than end of 2025. And again, it houses the usual payment in lieu of tax schedule that you're used to seeing in these agreements. Usual state law notices have been provided, including notice to the school district and publication in the paper of a public hearing that'll be held on July 25th. And following that would be consideration of the resolution of intent by the commission. Happy to try to field any questions you all might have.
Committee, any questions? Commissioner Lopez?
Okay, so this tax abatement thing, I don't like that word, but number one, so you're saying 90% in the first 15 years or something? Is that what you said?
Commissioner, so tax abatement in Kansas is limited to 10 years.
Okay.
And it's been a recent goal to have a graduated abatement where the earlier years provide more of an incentive to the developer, gradually paring back to something closer to a full tax property tax payment. And so what's been approximated in this schedule is every 2 years, that percentage increases. And so in the early years, the payment in lieu of tax schedule is intended to approximate something like 90% abatement. And then again, paring back in the later years to something like 15%. But again, altogether in the aggregate over the 10 years, about 50%.
Well, this is where we're at today with all these tax abatements you guys keep giving out. Okay, this is what's got us stuck. So, I mean, when I gotta pay, I got a business, I have to pay. There have to people that where he's located. I know all them industrial people, they all have to pay their property tax. Bottom line. It's just part of doing business. Now, the IRBs, was that off sales tax?
Commissioner, one of the incentives under industrial revenue bonds is sales tax exemption on construction materials and furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So that relates to their construction costs of their facility and the equipment they're going to house in the facility.
Okay, so how does he pay the bonds back then?
The bonds are purchased by the developer. And so there's a lease agreement between the unified government and the developer. And that lease sets up the repayment source of funds from the developer to the unified government. It assigns those payments to the bond trustee. And again, the developer owns its own bond here. So it in essence pays interest payments to itself over the course of the bond. But again, not a real financing mechanism. It's solely in place for purposes of providing these incentives.
Okay, and then how many jobs are we looking at that this could bring in?
We're looking at about 15 jobs over the next 3 years. And, and as we continue to grow, continue to add people as our volume grows again.
So like local people, and are you guys a butcher? Or
No, we are not. We are a box in, box out wholesale distributor of beef, pork, chicken, lamb, and food service products, French fries, potatoes, salads. We provide a lot of food service, like clamshells, lids, straws, cups, and those types of.
So is the meat coming from China, out of state? Is it come from local boys?
Majority of our product comes from the United States. We do buy some stuff from Mexico as well.
Okay.
And some of like the goat and the lamb and those things may be imported, but I would say 95% of what we sell comes from the United States.
Okay, so there, and then if this project, would it pay full in taxes, and how much would that be? A wholesale meat distributor. Okay, so. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Lopez, do you have any more comments?
I just would be more in favor if you took tax abatement out. And then, because I'm all for the, like I said, I have a business, I get it. I'm all for, but you want to be over here, we want to get on our team, that would be great. And our team, we all have to pay. So pay the property tax and I'll be on board. Thank you.
Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all the individuals who came tonight from Meese Corporation who want to do business in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Do have a few questions. What would be the first year of, assuming this goes forward, of the tax abatement? I do see the tax payment schedule. I'm looking at Exhibit C. I don't know if we have that available to put up or not, but what would be the first year of the tax abatement payments? And what currently, this is vacant land, is that correct? There's nothing on this land. So with it vacant as it is, what tax benefit is the UG deriving from the vacant land? What is the tax benefit now that we're getting from that land? Anything, nothing, assessed value, what?
Okay, thank you. I don't have the full spreadsheet in front of me. I understand from Mr. Kendall, 13,000 is the current tax bill on the vacant land.
That is if somebody was paying it. That's the assessed value, right?
The owner of the property is paying it
13,000.
And then to your first question, Commissioner, I'm looking at the same exhibit you are, Exhibit C, that lists the payment in lieu of tax schedule.
Mhm.
In the first year, which again is supposed to represent a 90% abatement, the richest year of the abatement being in the early terms, is just under $20,000. It's $19,367. And again, with the graduated structure, year 10 of the abatement period, for example, is $196,000. $733. So just to
Right.
represent that graduated structure.
So currently we're getting approximately 13,000. And the first year of the proposed abatement schedule shows 19,000. So there's an increase in the amount of taxes that would be paid. The other question I have, thank you, Mr. Kendall, for getting this. So it is something's being paid now. So this would be an increase. What is that first year, though, you estimate that would happen?
Right. So by state law, the payment in lieu of tax schedule goes into place the calendar year after the bonds are issued.
Mhm.
And the performance agreement requires that those bonds are issued no later than end of next year, meaning that the first year of the payment in lieu of tax schedule would be tax year 2026.
And in the interim, we're still getting at least 13,000 in taxes.
Correct. In the interim, they'll pay whatever the assessor appraises the property at. It'll be no incentive period until those bonds are issued. Correct.
Okay, thank you. Part of this proposed schedule for the payment of the taxes under the pilot schedule shows two different amounts, one predicated on whether or not there are certain minority goals that are achieved. For instance, if in constructing this building, we use local entities are used, or women or minority-owned companies are used. There, it looks like in the Schedule 10, anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 difference in the amount of the pilot that would be paid. For instance, the first year, $19,367 would be the amount of $19,367 would be the amount of the taxes paid under the pilot schedule. If, however, those minority and local goals are not achieved, then that number would jump up to $29,050. So my question is, number one, who certifies whether or not the minority business categories are what they say they are? Who certifies that a contractor is an MBE or WBE? And that's unified government. Does anyone know who does that? Because there's a significant amount of tax difference paid, and that's why it's important that we're dealing with people who are certified as minority entrepreneurs or women-owned businesses or not? Who does that for us?
Correct. So that comes from the procurement department, and I'm on the outside looking in, but for instance, when we comes time to issue these bonds at completion of the project, a year from now or whatever the case may be, as we're implementing the pilot schedule and issuing the bonds, we as your bond counsel check in with UG staff and procurement and say, thumbs up, thumbs down. Did they abide by this agreement that requires them to employ certain thresholds of those business owners?
And is that check-in done annually so that we know, okay, they're on target for year 2? This is what their minority involvement was, or this was their involvement with local-owned businesses? Does Gilmore and Bell check that every year?
So the agreement has to do with procurement during their construction process. So
Mhm.
we know at that time the payment in lieu of tax schedule goes into place, whether they're in column A or column B of the pilot schedule, so to speak.
Okay.
And you did a great job of summarizing, but to kind of peel back the math on the 2 columns you're looking at, the proposed penalty, if you will, is 5% of abatement. And so if you look in year 1, it's a little under $20,000 is the payment in lieu of tax if they comply with the agreement. And then it's roughly $10,000 more if they don't. And so that's the difference between 90% abatement versus 85% abatement.
Right. And just keeping it simple. So a lot of people who are following this and don't see this, and a lot of my constituents just keeping it simple. That's why I mentioned it looks like you got anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 variance between the annual pilot that could be paid if these minority goals are achieved or not. So thank you, gentlemen.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yeah, I just, who's Mize Real Estate? Is that the same people? You guys the same as Mize Real Estate? What about Mize Construction out of Wichita?
That is not us.
Okay.
Yeah, that is not us. I have seen that name. I was looking at. Well, see.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Wimpy, just for clarification, IRBs are usually a formality that we go through. That's not uncommon in development agreements, and that's usually for the construction and cost of materials. But what's throwing me is the property tax issue within, I think that Wendy had made the comment. I want clarifications. We're issuing IRBs to cover property tax costs as well as giving a pilot, which is a reduced property tax break that is structured through negotiations. This is not something I think we're accustomed to seeing. I know we heard it on one other project and now we're hearing it again. And I think there's some concern as to double dipping on property tax giveaways. And I want to, if that's not the case, I want to clear up the confusion now so that we collectively don't have to answer that. We collectively hear it from you, council, as to these IRBs being issued for property tax, sales tax, and then the pilot. Because if I hear it correctly, the way I look at it, I'm getting a property tax being supported through my IRBs. And then I'm also getting a property tax break with the pilot. So if that's not correct, please correct me.
Sure, happy to clarify. So the property tax abatement and the payment in lieu of tax schedule are the same thing. And it's probably easiest to explain it how state law treats it, where financing a facility with industrial revenue bonds allows the company to request being taken off the tax rolls by the Board of Tax Appeals. So just like the unified government is exempt from property taxes, if you acquire a new piece of property for governmental use, there's a petition or a submission to the Board of Tax Appeals to notify them that, we as a municipality own this piece of ground and use it for these purposes, and therefore we're exempt from property taxes. There's a similar process for projects financed with IRBs where the year after the bonds are issued, an application is made to the Board of Tax Appeals, and it's a binary ruling from BOTA's perspective. You're either subject to property tax or you're completely exempt. And so IRBs allow the property to be completely exempt. And then so that it's not 100% lost to the taxing jurisdictions, that there's zero property tax paid, we enter into these performance agreements that have a payment in lieu of tax schedule that attempt to approximate a percentage of property tax. So on the one hand, it's state law looks at it as being completely exempt. However, these agreements, the payment in lieu of tax schedule means that they will pay something akin to a property tax so that it's not 100% exemption from the taxing jurisdiction standpoint. Does that explanation help?
I appreciate you explaining that. I think there's members of the public that are here this evening that want to ensure that the actions that we take when it comes to property taxes is fair and equitable. And that's something that we as commissioners have been dealing with. And to the perception of double dipping was kind of a little confusing. I'm used to IRBs being issued for the construction and furniture and stuff, but not to cover property tax. And that's what my concern was, because the IRBs are tax exempt on the materials. And then it goes into, it's only for materials. Then you're going to use the IRB to pay the property taxes. Then you're going to come back and ask for a 50% pilot. And I think that was a confusing aspect for some of us. And my phone's lighting up, people asking for clarity. So.
And sorry if I didn't clarify that point, but no, the developer is purchasing its own bond, and those bond proceeds will go only towards their construction materials and their equipment that they're financing for construction and equipping of their facility. Those bond proceeds won't in any way be used to pay property taxes or anything. So I think we can do away with concerns about a double dipping scenario.
Okay. Thank you. And if I remember correctly, the payout is 10 years. And the pilot is scheduled to be paid on the appraised value that the county appraiser puts on the projected development. Is that not correct?
So there are two methods of implementing a tax abatement and installing these pilots or payments in lieu of tax. And one is that we agree to a percentage upfront that says, each year the appraiser will appraise your property and you'll pay X percentage of whatever the appraiser, what a hypothetical full tax bill would be. In this case, where we've done the graduated pilot, we're agreeing to a fixed dollar amount, which is the second option of granting a tax abatement. And so the exhibit C that the commissioner was pointing to that has the dollar amounts, we're going with the second option of a fixed dollar amount pilot up front, attempting to approximate what we think the appraiser would appraise the property at.
And that puts stability into the budget process. I understand that. I think most of us do understand how the pilot works. My information was basically to provide as much knowledge as I can as chair to the public when they hear about how the pilot is established and what the pilot really is intended to do, because it has the same name that the pilot has on the BPU bill, which causes a tremendous amount of confusion for us and the public. So I wanted to separate that out. And you said this, I looking at your performance sheets and said 58,900 is the average salary for your employees. In my quick math, that's roughly about $28 per hour. Is that inclusive of benefits?
No, that would not include the portion of the benefits. That's just the wage part.
Okay, that's good to hear. Those are good paying jobs. Commissioner Lopez.
Just real quick, you started in 1968. So what brought you to Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas? What made you want from North? Because you've got another location over in North Kansas City. What brought you here?
Well, my owners back here live in Wyandotte County, and Johnson as well. And they might be able to speak to it a little bit better than me. I've been with the company for 12 years. And I came on when they moved over from Wyandotte County into North Kansas City. So when it became obvious to us that we needed a bigger place, you know, we started looking around and this area, you know, we were familiar with the area. It's conducive to, you know, we have our own trucks, we deliver our own product. It's central to where, you know, we want to be. And it's close to where a lot of our employees work, and, you know, we've got people that we need to hire. So, you know, that's what attracted us to the area, is that it's, you know, we looked east in the state of Missouri still, but, you know, we didn't want to be that far. So, you know, what worked for us in Wyandotte County and in this area here, just the nice central location, we're familiar with the area, and that's.
So you guys were originally in Wyandotte County
Yes.
from the get-go, and then you moved to North Kansas City, and then you want to come back, or are you just going to expand and keep the place over North Kansas City?
No, we will consolidate everything from our current location into this one location. So we will have one location which will be located there.
And there was did you say another spot over in Independence or something?
No, we only have this one place here. And when we were exploring, is taking into consideration where we wanted to be and what worked best. Wyandotte County and this area in particular was the most central.
Well, I'm asking because, I mean, you come to Wyandotte County, come back, are we the only county that maybe offered you the bigger, better deal on the taxes?
I'll be honest with you, that is not any part of that we took into consideration. I mean,
I mean, that should be a huge part.
well, we were looking more, we looked more for the place that was conducive to where we wanted to be. So I mean, we didn't, you know, negotiate or, you know, seek out what the best deal was. We just, you know, we're familiar with the area. We have a lot of our people live over in that area. And so a lot of that went into our decision to come.
So the owner, are you guys born and raised here, Wyandotte County?
If I may, we do have a few people from the meat company here that would like to say something before I get into public comment. And I believe I met Mr. Meese when I came in. Mr. Meese, if you'd like to add something that Mr. Fender has stated before I get into public comment.
My name's Paul Meese with Meese Family Foods. My parents started this meat company in 1968 in Bonner Springs, just out of the house. My dad ran it that way for a lot of years, put 6 of us through college. My sister's a doctor. And we owned Midwest Cold Storage down in Armadale and worked out of that building for a lot of years. And we sold the building. The guy let it get run down. We had to leave. So we moved into borrowed space and then had this opportunity in Missouri, which drug us back. We never didn't enjoy working in Wyandotte County. It's just an opportunity presented itself over there. We're in the market and this piece of property works.
Okay. This might be a legal question too, but since they're a meat distributor, can they rezone to ag?
No, they wouldn't want to do that. Not for their location. They would need to be the commercial location or commercial zoning.
Okay.
Mhm.
And Wendy, if I may add to Commissioner, we discussed the fixed dollar amount pilot, so it's not at all based on appraised value during the abatement term. And so for that reason, even if they did rezone, which I understand is not possible, but they will still pay the dollar amounts here regardless of what the property zone for, what the appraiser assesses it for during the 10-year exemption period.
No, you can, but I don't know if you, I think we ought to wait till you might want to. Okay, thank you. Mr. Meese, you have any other comments you want to make before we move on?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wakes, you had a question?
Just wanted to say to Mr. Meese and to the crew, thank you for considering Wyandotte County. And also wanted to piggyback on what Commissioner Townsend stated. The fact that we have vacant land that developers are willing to come and to develop and to provide tax, because they're not speaking about for the life of the organization being present. They're talking about the first 10 years for the abatement. Is that correct? And then it's a graduated schedule, as he stated, which is an incentive that we provide for developers to come in and develop on our land. So we appreciate the fact that you consider us and that you're providing that increase in taxes on the land that we have here, and also bringing development to our county that provides services also for the metro area. And I just wanted to make that comment and to express my gratitude for that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stites.
Stites, District 7. So one of the things that the question that got asked a little bit ago was about how many employees, and I think it kind of, but I'm glad to see that you put it back up, and that was how many new employees, was 15 in the next 3 to 5 years. But the 37 will be transferring over to this location, right? And they'll be shopping here at the Quick Trip and the McDonald's and spending their lunch here in Wyandotte County versus somewhere else, right? So that's dollars that can be captured, you know, that are coming in here that you can't qualify. But also I would imagine that after 10 years, the abatement, I wouldn't think that you guys going into business in 1968 are planning on folding up and going anywhere soon. So I imagine you're looking for a long-term home and that this would probably be your final location. And hopefully with that 9 acres, that gives you some more room to expand if necessary. I'm not speaking for you because I don't know, I've never met you, but 9 acres is a pretty substantial piece of ground. And then the 13,000 that it's currently paying versus the 20,000 after year one of after construction, that would be. So, I mean, it's a win right off the bat. We're $7,000 to the good right there. And as far as the meeting the participation goals, I think we do a pretty good job at, because that's something that we really strive for. And I'm speaking to you guys now as what we as a unified government are looking for, the minority, women-owned, and local being used is that's important to us, just like it's important to you guys that you guys left Wyandotte County and then now you're coming back. We're glad you started out in Bonner and appreciate it. And so that's also important to us that we're using our local and minority and women-owned participation. So I hope that you guys do focus on that and that you're in column 1, not column 2, when we get down to the end and issuing the bonds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lopez, another question? Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Seeing none. I'll ask the clerk if there's any comments received from the public.
No comments received.
Are there any hands raised by the public who wish to speak, joining us by Zoom?
We do have a hand raise. We have Louise Lynch online. Ms. Lynch, you'll need to unmute. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, I wanted to ask them if they were getting no tax abatements, would they still be coming to Wyandotte? If they had none of these incentives, would they still be moving their business back to Wyandotte? And number 2, at the budget hearing, one of the things that we did say, the people of Wyandotte, that we were not wanting any more of these freebies, abatements given out, and extra money put on us over periods of time. We can't afford it now. We're not going to be able to afford in the future. I'm glad Mr. Meese has done a great job in growing his company and all his children went to college. We can't get our kids a good education in grade school. We need to put the money there. We have to stop this. And this is one of the things that we, the residents, made clear on the day the budget went to revenue neutral. And so if Mr. Meese, if you could speak to that, if we were to take that off the table, would you still relocate? Thank you.
This is Wendy Green, legal counsel, and I'm just reminding that this is a comment portion only, and our developers that are here do not have to answer any questions if they don't choose to.
Is there anyone else online? Madam Clerk?
No other hands are raised.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? You will be given 3 minutes to hear your comments. Please approach the microphone, name and point of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Please turn the mic on.
Pamela Penn Hicks, KCK. I just have one question. What is the level of minority participation that they have to reach? What's the threshold?
I just looked at that. Just a minute, Ms. Hicks, it's in the information here. I just want to make sure I give it to you
Didn't hear it.
correctly.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so this is part of the commission's adopted tax abatement policy, but the thresholds are different for the types of business category. And so for local businesses, it's 12% of total construction cost. For minority business enterprises, it's 6%, and for women-owned business enterprises, it's 4%.
Yeah, 12, 6, and 4 is our usual standard.
Well, I would like to encourage us to increase that standard because it's a very low threshold to have to meet. And we do have a great need for minority participation to increase in Wyandotte County, represented the population that we have, the demographics that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Yes, my name's Scott Harding. I'm from Bonner Springs, Kansas. There was a mention of there was no emails to the council or commissioners, and there was. I personally sent them myself, and I know of others that sent emails to get a vote no for the abatements. And I want that recorded, and I would hope that they say they're going to add, or they have $58,000 minimum wage or whatever that they pay out. My question is, what is your minimum wage that you actually pay per hour to some of these 37 people that you already have employed?
Thank you, Mr. Harding. We'll get that information.
And then,
On.
is this actually the item number 3 and 4, or just 3?
Just 3.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, just item 3. Item 4 will be the next item after we close this one out.
And, there's a lot of people that are struggling. They're poor people, the renters, some of them's been evicted, some of them lost their homes in Wyandotte County. According to the mayor, there already been 4,000 people already leave Wyandotte County because of the high taxes. We've been trying to work with the appraisers and stuff like that and city government to try to get it sort of calmed down a bit. We hate to see the poor and the senior citizens fall to the problem of have to sell their house and move out of Wyandotte County. Me personally, it's not a good thing for the county itself. Even if we get, let's say, 15 more jobs out of this, is it worth getting a tax abatement for us and adding to the problem that we have already, that we can't pay our taxes on a lot of the houses that we have, or even property themselves?
1 minute remaining.
And for me and the other people that's around, and I know people has sent everybody emails about this, and they went to revenue neutral everywhere. There's a bunch of people that's concerned about it. They even said something about the homeless people. They showed up. And some of the people that's been kicked out of their house, some people's having their houses sold for taxes. We need to really, really clamp down on this. And I really hate to see any businesses go out. I'm a small business owner too. I pay my taxes. I've never got an abatement, and I think that that's the way it ought to be for a lot of people. The little guy never gets an abatement, but the big guys do. I don't think that's fair to the rest of the community or the citizens. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Next up.
My name is Fannie Hill, Wyandotte County. I've been asking the commissioners for a year and a half now to take the tax off the table. I listened to them say we was going revenue neutral and we were gonna have to take a lot of hits. The community is gonna have to accept a lot of cuts. I feel like anytime people are coming in making money, they should pay their taxes. And I'm waiting on the company to come in and say, give us the land is enough. If you're giving away land, our land used to be reasonable, but land has doubled 4 times what it used to be. And you giving that plus taxes. And then I heard somebody say that the pilot was not going to be based on the appraisal because number one, once you come in here, if your pilot was going to be based on the appraisal of your house, the way they're appraising them now, are you gonna pack up and leave because the taxes is too high here and go back to where you came from? Because if we're gonna have to take cuts, we can't continue to expect the people to understand that we're taking cuts and at the same time giving away tax dollars that are needed. So I'm asking the commissioners again. Commissioner Lopez said something that I have been saying for the longest, I agree with. If they don't want to pay their taxes, let them go where taxes is not needed, because here we're needing tax desperately because the people can't pay any more taxes and it always fall on the people.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Greg Kendall, President of the Wyandotte Economic Development Council. We're here in support of the resolution to issue industrial revenue bonds from East Wholesale Foods in the amount of $17.45 million and the performance agreement that goes with it. We've been working with the East Wholesale Foods team since early March to identify a location that would work for them. This is a family-owned company, started here in Wyandotte County, coming back. Today, we're excited to have them coming forward to talk about building a new 75,000 square foot facility at 6036 Speaker Road there in the Muncie area off of Turner Diagonal and K32. That 9-acre vacant site generates about $13,000 a year, which are paid. They're paying full price for that land. And then in addition, the proposal in front of you is going to generate $1 million, over $1 million over the next 10 years after they build their facility during the incentive period. Those are brand new dollars to this community. If you do the math, $13,000 a year times 10 is $130,000 instead of this project, which is going to generate over $1 million over that same period of time to the community. This is the only way I know how to drive more money into your budget, into the school district budget, to the community college budget, and everybody else's, is to drive development projects. You can say no, we can say no to these projects, but 100% of nothing is still nothing. And what we're proposing here today is a development agreement that generates $1 million in net new property tax to this community over the next 10 years. And then it's probably closer to $250,000 a year after that. And this plant has been, company's been operational for a very long time, and we expect them to stay here in Wyandotte County, hopefully for the duration of their growth period, right? They are adding to our food-based economy in Wyandotte County. We have a number of food-related companies, and this is just another great example of when we provide a good location that has infrastructure. They're going to probably be generating electricity 24/7 because it's cold storage. So it's probably a pretty decent electric sales taxes as well to the community that we haven't generated for you, but it certainly could. And then we've already talked about the employees that they're relocating here and then
1
adding
minute
another
remaining.
15 to this community. So we appreciate the fact that they're willing to invest in our community. There are projects looking all over the place, all over this metro. Anytime a company chooses to select Wyandotte County, we're excited. We're excited that you all have chosen to come back to Wyandotte County. We appreciate your willingness to talk to us and work with us. And we appreciate the team here at the Unified Government for working with us and for putting together what we think is a qualified proposal. We appreciate your consideration and ask that you vote in favor of this proposal. Thank you.
Is there anyone else present care to speak to this item? Let the record show no one else has stepped forward. If I may, I would ask that, can the community see this projections and forecasts on that screen back there? Okay, great, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you're seeing the same information that we have. So just for clarification, we have a IRB, tax exemptions for construction materials, machinery and equipment. We also have a request for a pilot, a 10-year pilot that pays $19,000 a year as it progresses up to the final amount, which is dangerous when I go changing my paperwork. I don't see how much it is. I apologize. I lost the page. Mr. Wimpy, do you know what the 10th
Mr.
year is?
Chairman, if you were citing year 10 of the payment in lieu of tax schedule, that number is just under 197,000.
197,000. I think it was Mr. Kendall that made the comment. It will generate roughly $100 million. Thank you for the clarification. $1 million over a 10-year time frame versus $130,000 over a 10-year time frame for vacant property. The question before us is a motion to approve or a motion to disapprove. Committee, any comments? Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate again some of the things that Mr. Kendall said, he made mention of, and to clarify that what this company is seeking tonight does not take anything away from current taxpayers in Wyandotte County. We are talking about adding to and improving so that when we talk about bringing down taxes and lowering costs, which is really a residential issue, not before us tonight, this is adding to the tax base. It's not taking anything away from any current Wyandotte County taxpayers. You've already heard it said that the first year, the owner of this property is paying about $13,000, somewhere between $13,000 and $14,000. The first year on this pilot is like 19,300. If they fail to meet the goals of LM and WBE, then it's 29,000. And it's like that for the next 10 years. So I just can't express enough that we need to look at the business situation and what is being added to our community, hopefully, by presentations and desires of these individuals to come back to Wyandotte County versus individual property tax issues. Different ballgame. So with that, I would move to approve this resolution as submitted.
Wait, second.
Committee, we have a motion and a second for approval. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Wakes.
Aye.
Lopez.
No.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. Thank you, public, for your discussion. That takes us to item number 4. Item number 4 this evening was an add-on for our agenda this evening. And I was notified today that this will be for discussion purposes only. And it's a proposed development project located at 805, 810 North 6th Street. I'm assuming legal will want to give a briefing.
This wasn't an item that we brought forth.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this item? Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are there any handouts? There was nothing in our packet preparing. So is there anything other than just the blue sheet that announces this item as an add-on?
I have nothing that was presented to me this evening.
Okay. Clear.
This was asked, there was an item to be discussed dealing with the city loft project on the corner of 6th Street for development, IRBs, tax abatement, and parking issues. My understanding is that the developer, I don't know if he's pulling the project. I don't know what. We're just sitting here looking for some guidance as to, it says discussion. We have members of the public here tonight that want to speak. I don't know who changed the agenda, but as chairman, I'd like somebody to come forward and explain to me what it is we're doing. Commissioner Burns.
Yes, that project is in my district. And I think if all of you are aware that a trailer and the fencing went down there about 10 days ago. I guess assuming they were going to get the project approved. I don't think they have permission at this point to be down there or have that on that property. If someone would stand myself corrected, that'd be fine. But are we going to be looking at that eyesore in the near future? Does anyone know? I guess it's still there. I haven't looked today.
Mr. Wakes, comments?
Yes. Being a pastor in Northeast Wyandotte County, I have a member who is part of the Indian Nation who expressed concern and that her chief in Oklahoma sent a letter to a community member opposed to any type of development that would take away from the parking and the business of the casino. And so a chief sent a letter to a community member asking her to speak. I understand that particular community member is ill and not here tonight, but they were really concerned that anything would be built, low-income housing that would also take away the parking of the business for the casino. And so they had a lot of concerns. And so that's what I've heard regarding the project.
Thank you. I know my agenda states that Jeff Conway was to give us an overview this evening. So I don't see Mr. Conway present.
No, he's not here. He's with the Planning Commission. I can tell you that we were informed that this was going to be added as a discussion item. Legal doesn't have anything other than to tell you that there was going to be, they were going to request IRBs for construction materials. That item isn't on the agenda. That the only agreement that we have, there's no development agreement because one wasn't needed until, the only thing they did request was IRBs. We had a parking facility agreement with them, which we still have, for them to use 20 spaces for unified government spaces in Lot E North and 15 spaces in Lot 6. The unified government deeded this property to them in 2004 with restrictions on it, saying that they would begin construction within 6 months of that deed, which didn't happen. That we have a reversion clause in that deed, which we have not enacted. And that earlier this year, they deeded that City Lofts, deeded that property. It was City Hall Lofts LP originally, and they deeded that property earlier this year to another development entity, which they were allowed to do if it was a development partner under our restricted deed, but our deed restrictions are still in place. And other than that, they got a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals for their parking, which they had to have if they were going to have those lofts, because when you have apartments or lofts, you have to have a certain amount of parking spaces for your residences. And in order to get those, they had to have an agreement with the unified government to use some of our parking spaces. And so we gave them that agreement and they were given the variance to be able to have the certain number of parking spaces to be able to get their building permit. And other than that, that's all legal has.
Mr. Wakes?
Yes. So you're saying that you can provide parking to an entity without sharing that information with or without seeking input from the Indian Nation?
It's not Indian Nation parking facilities that we provided an agreement with.
But does not the Indian Nation use that facility for their customers for the casino?
They do, but they don't have exclusive use of that parking facility. Mhm.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lopez?
Okay. I'm trying to figure out where I can start here. There was a email sent to us from the administrator saying that this project went through a historic review and planning entitlements, but yet our Kansas State archaeologist has no record, there's no record of any historical study being done at all. So where he's getting his information, I have no clue. It's just, I don't know, it's why, how is this, how do these permits even get issued? Number one, I mean, there's nothing in play. They did, the Indian Nation never even received a letter from the get-go, from the whole start of this whole project. So they're not even playing by the rules from, and so how do they even get issued any permits whatsoever?
Because if they're already zoned correctly, then they didn't need a change of zone. So that they didn't have to go through any rezoning processes. If the only variance they needed was for parking, variances only require Board of Zoning Appeals approval, and that's not a planning commission process. That's only Board of Zoning approval. That doesn't go through the planning commission, and it doesn't go through the Board of Commissioners for approval. It only goes through the Board of Zoning Appeals. So that wouldn't go through you all either. So the only other thing they would need would be a building permit. And that's not something that goes through the planning commission either. That's just an application process through building licensing and building permits.
But how are they, because it's right there next to a cemetery,
Mhm.
why wasn't there even their attorney, I believe, even told us that there was a archaeological study done, but there wasn't.
And that I don't have any information on. I apologize. I don't know about anything. I don't have any information on that. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Stites?
Sites District 7. So where are we at? I mean, we got a blue sheet on here that apparently nobody knows where the dang thing came from.
And nobody is here to testify,
here
nobody to
talk
give us
about
any
it. So
information.
what are we supposed to do?
Don Faree was here earlier today. I spoke with him briefly and he is no longer in the room. As your chair, I've never had this happen. So I don't know what actions we should take. I know the action I would like to take, but I think that has been short-circuited through the blue sheet for discussion only. And it's awful hard to have a discussion when you don't have those in the room to bring forward the issue for discussion. In light of some of the comments that were made, the transfer of ownership, I'd like to know who has the authority to give public property, which is our parking lot, away to a private entity. I'd like to, there's questions I have to that.
Well,
How we have paid for that. That's public money that has been paid that is now going to go to a private developer. And second, there's notification requests, archaeological questions that have come forward. The fact that now I won't call it gamesmanship, but the fact that we were supposed to have an action item on the agenda this evening to have a public discussion for passage or denial this evening, to have a discussion and nobody here to discuss it. I think it's very bad form and very unprofessional. Commissioner Stites.
well, and I appreciate that because I too still have unanswered questions. There's I had folks that were reaching out to me just today, the land bank's a letter of acceptance. Is our appropriateness? Has that been, have we got that? The, accessibility, the parking, all the things that are going on here. And for us to, I think this is a very bad look for us to come here at a 5 o'clock meeting, special session, or not special session, it's standing committee, and then for us to not really have any direction or guidance, or somebody put it on the agenda.
From what I understand, and I can't answer your question about the parking agreement, we are just leasing the spots to them. They're not assigned spots at all. So it's more of a first come, first serve. They can use 20 spots, but they may or may not be available. we just gave them the right to use 20 spots.
Who's
and
out
not
there
8.
monitoring that? Do we
Exactly,
have somebody standing out there saying, okay, you're 19, 18, don't stop?
right.
And then I guess people are supposed to carry their groceries across the street in the rain or, you know,
Right.
I don't know, there's a lot to still
Right.
be
So
answered
it-
on this. And I don't know if this means where this means the project's at right now.
Right. Well, so again, the parking, it's only a rental agreement for the spots. It's an administrative issue. So because it's just a rental agreement, we weren't selling anything. There was no UG property to sell because we're not giving them anything. We were renting them for $18.75 a spot. So it was an administrative process. It wasn't something that required commission approval for it. So that's why it didn't go through the commission, and it was passed last year. So that's the parking aspect of it. And again, they're unassigned spots. So it's again, more first come, first served basis. But as far as the mayor thought you all still would want to discuss this item, even though it wasn't, so I believe it was his office that asked for this to be blue sheeted onto tonight's agenda. But when the other item was pulled, and that unfortunately is all I know.
So I was told that there was a development agreement in place.
There's
No?
no development agreement. Mm-mm. The only agreements I know of are the parking facility agreement,
No development agreement in place.
because we don't, again, go ahead, I'm sorry, Shelley, if you have any information.
Sure. So Shelley Knieven, Chief Financial Officer. So I have confirmed with Jeff, 'cause he's listed on the blue sheet,
Mhm.
that it was the mayor that asked for it to be on for discussion
Mhm.
only. I think because he had had citizen comments and wanted to give them a forum to share their comments. The developer was notified and declined to appear, and I think is rethinking their plan because of some of the comments that the full commission had in terms of LIHTC in general and the future for this property. And so I think it was just a forum to make sure that there's an opportunity for some comments. I've been taking notes and I've got a number of questions you guys are asking that we need to follow up on and get you information in terms of the parking, the agreement administratively, when was it approved?
I have
Where
that
are the
agreement in front of me, so.
The adjacent, yeah.
Is the trailer and the fence properly permitted to be up there? Can anybody answer that?
Got that on the list of questions.
Well, I mean, this just didn't happen tonight.
Understood.
And I'm wondering why we don't have the answers from when this stuff went up on last Friday. Why, I mean, somebody's gonna ask somebody. I mean, if there's a city street that's blocked and a sidewalk that's blocked. Is there or isn't there a development agreement? And if that stuff is improperly in place, it needs to be pulled.
I see Mr. Levert Murray wanting to respond. Mr. Murray, do you have any comments you could shed light on this blue sheet item this evening?
Thank you, Commissioner, and I think I have some information that may prove helpful. The mayor, again, maintained his stance that this item should come before the standing committee. As you may know, the matter was placed on the standing committee agenda a week or two ago, and in his discussion with other members of that committee and the commission chair, the mayor had asked that it come off the standing committee. And then there were developments.
Where's Jeff? There.
I'm sorry.
Just-
Oh. And then it went back onto the agenda. Now, the question is, should it have been on the agenda since the attorney for the developer requested that the item be dropped? Last week, when I spoke with the attorney, there were certain elements of the request for industrial revenue bond financing, which included a pilot schedule for real property tax abatement, as well as personal property exemption. Last week, it's my understanding that the real property tax exemption request had been dropped. It was today that we are to understand that the request to rescind the matter came about. But the mayor's position, since it was discussed that this was coming out of the mayor's office, the mayor's position was this had already been placed on the standing committee agenda as of last Friday. And that's why the mayor wanted to make sure it came to the committee or the standing committee for discussion, because there had been members of the public inquiring about the project. There were things left to be resolved, as I understand it. The CFO mentioned the parking agreements, and I know Jeff's here now. But the mayor and others asked, where is the formal agreement to provide for parking in the health department lot and then the other 16 spaces in the lot in front of the BPU? That was an issue that currently we're to understand there is an agreement to provide for the parking. We were trying to find the written agreement. Thus far, I can tell you the mayor has not seen that. In addition, there were questions regarding notices provided to the Wyandotte Nation. And of course, the Wyandotte Nation had complained that they had not received notices about the planned development of the site, which in the past, some years ago, was part of the Huron Park. But again, to address your concerns, the mayor did want this matter to stay on the standing committee agenda for discussion, because last week it was determined that that's where the item was heading before the attorney and the petitioner asked that the matter be withdrawn.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Commissioner Burns?
Well, it sure would have been nice if the attorney would have just stayed here so we could have asked him some questions rather than just leave. You know, this is why the average citizen loses a lot of faith in government, is for things like this. And it's just started, it's just a debacle is all it is right now.
Commissioner Lopez?
So they're probably going to bring this back, but I just want our committee here to know that they were, what was it, like 46,000 a year or something? The property, I can't remember how much it was a year on the property tax. What they were initially saying it was going to bring, I can't remember what the number was, but the Indian Nation is so up in arms that they're talking about pulling their funding that they give us what I think 500,000, almost 500,000 a year. And just so if they want to bring this back, we need to know that we understand that if this is put in there, the Indian Nation, the casino is just, you can forget about that money. And then here's another thing is this whole fencing and everything, they've already cut curbs. So are they going to fix that? They're going to rip out the curbs that they cut and put brand new curbs in when they pull their fencing? That's what I'd like to know. They've already staked it off, which that's not a big deal. But my main thing is Wednesday morning, they were out there cutting curbs when a lot of this stuff hadn't even been passed yet. So what, I mean, whose lap that to me looks like falls on Gunnar Hand's lap, doesn't? He's over planning and zone or the urban design, right?
But this didn't require approval of that department.
Okay.
They needed building permits, which they got their appropriate building permits. What is holding them up now is they want the IRBs, which is why they haven't started.
And if I understand correctly, the fact that it was owned by one group and transferred to another, The lofts were the only mixed-use development that I can recall being downtown that had market rate, affordable, and low income. And those residents that were market rate were issued a letter to vacate the facility so they could turn the entire facility into a LIHTC, low-income tax credit project for the benefit of $5 million to rehab the facility. But my understanding is the IRBs and the abatement can only go on the 6th Street development and not the lofts. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm following the conversation because it does make a difference on what the public sees and how they see the structuring that's going on. But I know we have dealt with private businesses utilizing government entities, government buildings, and utilizing our property. And I know that health issues are a major concern in Wyandotte County, and we're giving away parking spots in the health center to a private entity, and there's no accountability, and $18 a month. I'd buy all 20 myself and rent them out for 25 and let other people park stuff there if it was allowed. I don't know what kind of agreement that is, and I don't think that's fair and equitable to the public to see their property utilized that way. I have a few other questions myself, but it's very difficult. Mr. Conway, thank you for being here. This was thrown at us at the last minute. That was for discussion only. Nobody's here on behalf of the conferee to have a discussion. We're just raising some questions to give you. And I do want to allow the in-district commissioner an opportunity to speak if there's any other concerns or questions he may have, because this is the district that Mr. Burns represents. Mr. Burns, do you have any other comments or questions?
I just want to know, what, are we moving forward or backwards or what? I mean, if they want to put it back on the agenda with the IRBs, what month are they talking about? I mean, obviously it's not going to happen in July. I wouldn't think this committee would want a special committee to hear that at this point. Worst thing they did was go down there and put that trailer there with the fencing, because it generated a lot of citizen input. Believe me, I know. I'm getting them. I'm continuing to getting them. And, when I can't answer their questions, then it's just too bad, And they can play all the legal games they want at this point, but they're not going to get much by me.
Commissioner Lopez?
You said the building permit was in play.
Yeah, I believe so.
How did they get a building permit without an archaeological study?
I don't have any information on that. Jeff, do you know?
The entire block is not an archaeological site, from what I understand.
According to the Kansas archaeologist study under section 106, before they can even get a building permit, they're supposed to be, and there's no record of ever, and it's right next to it, there's no record. So how did they get a building permit?
I'd like to take a look at the section 106. I haven't seen it yet. I'm sorry.
We'll find out that for you, though. I promise.
I guess, Ms. Knieven?
Yeah, so one of the things we can do is, since we've all taken notes on these items, is let us get the information for you and follow up by email, and we'll share it with the full commission so that you do have the information to answer questions. These are all good questions. We're just not prepared to answer them. I believe this was blue sheeted this afternoon. So we were a little caught flat-footed, but we will certainly follow up. And if you think of other questions that you all have, let us know so we can get the information to you so that you are prepared to answer some questions from citizens.
The public right of way has been interrupted on that roadway, and the parking for the casino has been impacted on the east side of City Hall. So I don't know if there was any discussions given to the tribal nation in reference to the parking impact it's had along there for their business. But I have a question about parking a solid structure on a roadway or a thoroughfare and blocking sidewalks off and clear out into a third of the street. I mean, I know when we had another development that was raised and we moved those fences back and gave the right of way back to the public. This one kind of concerns me greatly when I see the east side of the development where our fire trucks would stage when they would pull them out. And now they can't stage there because of the fencing. And I don't know what kind of warning or what kind of lighting that solid structure should have. But if somebody comes over that hill, who's going to be liable if somebody slams into that trailer that's parked in the right of way? I call it the roadway, public roadway. I think those are some questions of liability that we might have somebody stepping out in the street to avoid the fenced sidewalk and get hit by a car or roll an ankle or something like that because of this. I think there's some liability issues there. Commissioner Burns again, please.
I would like for someone to find out who precipitated that group to get the permits. In other words, I understand it came from the engineering department. That's who issued the permits for this whatever they put down there. But who asked them, who instructed that department to do that? Somebody would have said, hey, we want to get the permits. And they just issued them. Does anyone know in this building?
Commissioner Allen House, Assistant Administrator, and if the developer is coming in to apply for building permits and they have the zoning by right, there's not they apply and the NRC will review that and they'll issue permits, accordingly. So there's not another voice that's saying, yes, go forward or don't. Particularly, if it's a by right development that they're coming in and getting building permits.
Maybe I'm missing the boat, Alan, but someone would have had to give approval to the engineering department to go ahead and issue those permits. And that's what my question is. Who did that? Who called the engineering department to proceed with that?
It wouldn't have been an internal decision, yes or no.
So if this development group, is that who did it, obviously?
Yeah, they came in and.
I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but I'm very suspicious.
Yeah, like other construction projects, they would come in and they'd apply for building permits and they'd go through a building that review process with the building permit folks, and if it was in accordance, then they would issue the building permits.
Yeah, and if they're the title landholder and it's the correct zoning, then they would get issued the permit.
And I guess sorry. I guess when I'm looking at permit number SC 24-033, that calls for the traffic control of City Hall Place for DRC 23-0085 contractor to occupy the west curb / parking lane and west side sidewalk of 6th Street of Minnesota Avenue, contractor to occupy north curb / parking lane and north side sidewalk of Ann Avenue, west of North 6th Street. Address 810 North 6th Street, Kansas City, Kansas, for the amount of $578. I have the permit that I'm looking at right now. So they were permitted to do what they did.
Yeah, they had
I found that out myself there.
Yeah, the issue was, again, the reason they have not begun is because they want the IRBs.
If I may, Council, I want to bring some formality back to this as much as I can as chair for discussion. I know we have members of the public that are here this evening that were expecting to speak to this item. Are we allowed to have them give their comments this evening? I believe those that have stayed here for this item should have an opportunity to voice their concerns, or they may have additional questions. But I also want to know, what is the conferee's next step? If he's pulled this item, will it come back to us again in the future?
If they ask for it to.
At this time, it's pulled. So is the project dead?
No, they can ask for the item to come back for approval for the IRBs or whichever they wanted.
Or they can move forward without the request of
Yeah, or they-
IRBs.
yeah,
I mean,
or they can move forward
and that's
without it.
what it sounds like has happened to me, that they're looking to continue the project. The reason that they declined tonight to speak is because they're not seeking IRBs and they're moving forward with the project.
Right, they could move forward with the project without having any public incentives.
Okay, Commissioner Lopez.
How can they move forward with the project without a archaeological study?
And
That is
that's what
huge.
we're checking on.
That is huge. They shouldn't even got any permits from the get-go even, and they need to our curb, the curbs that they cut our curbs. And I don't want them just filled in with whatever. They need to rip them out and put new curbs in. Because this should not even move forward. No permits, no nothing without an archaeological study.
And we will double check to make sure that all the proper procedures were followed.
Well, right now, I mean, I just can't understand why our administrator would email us a letter saying that everything was, the historical, basically the archaeological study was done, but it wasn't. So I don't know where he's getting his facts from.
For sure, there's a difference between historical review and an archaeological study. And so, as council said, we'll go back, we'll take this question, we'll go back and research it and provide that information back out to the full commission. Because I don't think anybody at this table can answer that, but we've certainly heard and noted the question and we'll find out.
Well, if they bring it back, like they probably will, what's the, we're gonna gamble with however much money that they're gonna bring in, which I don't know why, because they're making money hand over fist for all the abatements and whatnot that they're asking for versus losing out on $500,000 from the casino every year. Because they can't touch it. They can't match that or make it better.
Madam Clerk, I'm going to go ahead and go into public comment, public discussion. So I am going to, if there's not any other questions from the commission at this time, I'll ask the clerk if there was any comments received from the public.
Yes, we did receive one comment. This is from Maggie Watson. In regards to the City Hall Loft Expansion Project, please let the record show that I am against this project, namely due to the tax abatements. It's not logical to keep bringing in less taxes while bringing in more citizens who use our amenities when they aren't contributing to them. Our police are already overwhelmed. Our schools are begging for more money. Public Works can't seem to keep up with basic vegetation care, and we're fighting for the UG to make cuts so that taxes aren't increased again this year. How could it make any sense to give these abatements and put more strain on our services with more citizens to care for? Those are the only comments we received.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would ask clerk if there are any hands raised by the public who wish to speak.
We have one hand raised from Louise Lynch.
Please, Ms. Lynch.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you, Tom, for speaking of the right things in regard to this issue. Thank you, Phil, Chuck, and Bill. I really appreciate it. I think there's more that people need to consider besides these non-transparent games that the government is playing. I understand that Gunnar Hand was there tonight and then poof, he's gone. So he can't answer any questions. Imagine that. The administrator talked at the revenue neutral meeting, the meeting before that, public comment, that he wanted transparency. He's yet to do that. in putting up these fences and this structure and blocking off sidewalks, what are you doing to those that are disabled? What are they supposed to do? All of a sudden you do that. To disrespect and not give notification to the Wyandotte Nation, to the indigenous people of our area, is more than atrocious. To take away parking spaces from the health department, which means those that are poor, people are having to bring them, and you're giving away spaces for $18, is more than ridiculous and insulting. That is worth more than the poor people who need to use those services. To give this apartment complex no parking because thinking that they are too poor to have a car is another thought that's been put out there, is also atrocious. To have none of the people involved, Gunnar Hand, the administrator, or anybody give this committee any information other than now that's been presented is not transparent in any form or fashion. To have legal say that they don't know, but everyone knows what's happening, but they really don't know, is also atrocious. If they bring this back to your committee,
1 minute
I don't care
remaining.
what they present, they need to vote it down. The disrespect to our people, the poor people, the indigenous people, the disabled people, is atrocious, on top of all the money, and then give them abatements for it? You've got to be kidding. We detested this on the day you all voted for revenue neutral. It is more atrocious today that they did not consider any of the groups that I have spoken about. This is more than disgusting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch. Madam Clerk, are there any more hands?
We do. Our next speaker is Callie McLaughlin.
Ms. McLaughlin? Ms. McLaughlin, can you hear us?
Ms. McLaughlin, you'll need to unmute.
Thank you. I was unable to unmute for some reason. I apologize. My name is Kelly McLaughlin. I am the DRC coordinator for the UOG who issued this building permit. Cannot speak to every question that was answered or asked earlier, but I'm able to provide a little bit of insight about the process, including how this permit was issued. This permit was applied for through a couple of different planning entitlements. I was not the planner assigned to those, so I am not speaking to the full process of that. However, I can give a little bit of background as to what we do when it concerns a historical site or site of significant importance when it comes to a DRC building permit or any other kind of building permit. In this particular case, I'm not sure what the level of historical review is required. There are, from what I understand, 3 different types of reviews. One that's kind of a state, and then 2 ones that are more localized. Those are determined by the significance of the features of the building and so on and so forth. However, anytime we're doing a review, there is some kind of clause in there that does address historical standards and what happens if you were to come across something during the project's development. In this case, because I don't believe we had anything of significant, anything noted that we knew would be underground because we knew what was there to begin with. We kind of had an idea. This building had already gone through a demolition process. There had already gone through some of the damage from previous historical events. I believe there was flood damage, fire, for instance. I'm not entirely sure of those specifics, but what we do is we do put a clause in there that states you must notify our department, in particular our historic preservationist, should something be found during any kind of construction, demolition, excavation. So I can double check to make sure that that was in the planning entitlements, but usually those are in the entitlements, and then something regarding that is actually in the comment letters provided during the permit review process that addresses that as well. The applicant does sign that and is able to provide that says, I understand if we find something of historical significance, we will notify the department to make an evaluation accordingly. So there is a little bit there that we kind of have as a, I don't say a clawback, but we have made it aware to them that we want to be notified should something of significance be found.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. Madam Clerk, is there any other hands raised?
Our next speaker is identified as iPhone. You'll need to unmute, state your name, city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, this is Cece Harlan, and I was calling in to speak about the fact that the developers didn't even show up to answer questions from the community or the board. I also wanted to make mention that Gunnar Hand and Ashley Hand have been complained about several times to our city manager and to the board on their behavior of keeping people out of the meetings virtually. They're living where they live because they have not complied with their contract to move
Mr.
to
Chairman.
Wyandotte County.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Miss Harlan, I
Yes,
do want to.
I'm okay. I won't go there, but what I'm saying
Thank you.
this is just another thing. This is just another thing. And I'm just asking, when are y'all gonna do something about it? Because we shouldn't be left in the dark. Y'all left in the dark, the public left in the dark. I've been listening to the meeting. And I just want to know when y'all gonna do something about it.
Thank you, Ms. Harlan.
There are no other hands raised.
No other hands raised. Is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak to this item? Please come to the podium and you'll be given 3 minutes. State your name and place of residence, please.
Pamela Penn Hicks, KCK. So when this project was initially presented, there were some of us in the community that posed some questions about the development. The parking was one of them because of the safety issues and the fact that if you put retail in that area, that's going to increase the number of people who come to utilize the services. Another issue that was raised at the time was how many apartments would be provided for people who have disabilities. And that question was never answered. And now that we know that this is going to be a low-income tax credit, we need to make sure that we get that information beforehand. One of the things I read in the documentation was a requirement that this project receive a certificate of appropriateness from the Land Bank Commission, no, the Landmark Commission, I'm sorry. And I don't know if that has been obtained and would like to know for a fact that that is, because I understand the project could not move forward without it. That cycles into what Mr. Lopez was saying about the archaeological studies. So there are still some major concerns about this project. We're talking about a half acre of land. There are other areas in the downtown area that might be more appropriate where the parking situation could be resolved without having to borrow spaces or pay for spaces or lease spaces or otherwise put people in jeopardy of having their safety compromised by having to walk across the street. Although it's not a major issue at night, it is a major issue during the day. And now that I now know that your other property, the other parking areas are over in the BPU lot. That's beyond and again across a major street from that property. So those things need to be considered in whether or not we consider whether or not that project should go forward, much less whether or not they should get IRBs in order to finance it.
1 minute remaining.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Penn. Next speaker.
My name's Scott Harding. I'm from Bonner Springs. It looks like this developer knew there was going to be a vote tonight on this agenda for this abatement and all this other stuff. I know they got free money to buy or they didn't even buy the land. They just got it for free. What I think, I don't know if I can make a motion or not, but since they're not concerned about this, I think we ought to make a motion and say, hey, take the vote on this and vote no. Because they knew and they were aware of this meeting. And the citizens have put their time and money, fuel, getting out here and taking time on the the Zoom to get things done. I feel the people themselves should have this committee to go ahead and vote no, because they have no idea what the heck this developer's doing, and he's not doing the permits and stuff in the right order from what it sounds like to me. They've already started construction when, let's say they did get a permit, but what's that permit consist of? Does that consist of building or just doing this, cutting the sidewalks? And it just makes a lot of people mad that you guys are running us around and they're doing this legally, and you guys know it, to where they can screw you guys around and the public too. And I know I don't appreciate it, and I'm sure a lot of people in the audience and the Zoom don't appreciate it either. So I hope something gets done tonight, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harding. Is there anyone else in the public that would care to speak to this item?
Mr. Chair, we do have another hand raised online.
Okay. Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just, not going to speak. I want to speak, and I want staff to verify. I do not believe Gunnar Hand had any part in this. So I want to make it known that there, been attacks on Gunnar. He has not been part of this process. And so I thank Commissioner Townsend for calling that point of order. Thank you.
Commissioner, you're correct. And Mr. Chairman, Ms. McLaughlin can speak to the Landmark Commission letter if you would like for her to provide additional information.
Is she the one that has her hand raised?
No, she is not.
If I go back to Ms. McLaughlin, I'll also go back to the other individual that raised their hand.
Sure. And she's staff, so I mean, after the public comment,
Okay.
if you would
All
like
right.
her to follow up on some of the.
Please, Ms. McLaughlin,
Yes.
please go ahead.
Yeah, so I believe the certificate of appropriateness was obtained in early 2023. I'm not sure the exact date, but it is confirmed that we do have one. It was done either either before we did the change of zone applications or concurrently with the change of zone applications. But we did have one completed, and that is what allows us to proceed with the building permit.
Thank you. Do we have another conferee with their hand raised?
We have Latanya Goodlow online. Ms.
Okay.
Goodlow, you'll need to unmute. State your name and residence. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Latanya Goodlow in Wyandotte County. I just wanted to make a statement that what I'm hearing is, so there was allowed to be a bill that would cost us $500,000 and nobody had to approve that. I mean, that's money that is in our budget. I mean, I'm a little confused how a developer comes in and knocks us out of $500,000. So unless I'm missing something here, I feel like, getting a building permit is one thing, but this is money we're talking about that now is lack from our budget, if I'm correct. Correct? That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Goodlow. Madam Clerk, if there's no other hands or nobody else to speak, let the record show that this was not a public hearing. This was a discussion this evening. The fact that you brought questions forward, staff will work on those and get them back to the chair and to the committee. Staff, what's our Commissioner Stites?
Stites District 7, and I respect Mr. Harding's position on wanting to, make a motion. I appreciate the attempt for you to make a motion, actually, but I don't think they're going to allow you to do that. But I don't think that we have anything to vote on tonight, right? There's not an ordinance, there's not a resolution, so as much as we would like to be able to put this item to bed or get some clarification as to where we're moving forward, there's clearly not anything here for us to vote on tonight. I mean, we'd be just making a motion to make a motion. I don't know what we'd vote on.
Yeah, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What we've been through within the last hour is a good example of what I've been saying all along about these last minute blue sheet items. They do not give me and the rest of my colleagues here the time necessary to understand what it is we're supposed to be discussing, voting on, whatever it is. And this is a good example of it. There are things said tonight that I'm sure will go out and recirculate in the public without substantiation. You heard me ask earlier, was there any other documentation that had provided to us? And the answer is no. So I appreciate our chair wanting to give those people who had come out tonight expecting something else the opportunity to speak. However, I, for one, would not want to see anything like this happen again unless the commissioners on this committee have been given documentation about what we're supposed to be discussing or what the issue is. This is a waste of time. I am so angry with this. Personalities come to it that should not be. This is not how we're supposed to conduct business. So as far as I'm concerned, we've had the discussion. There were questions that were brought out. I'm totally unfamiliar with any concerns before. This could have been done by email almost. But if this is to come back in any form, I am asking that there would be a thorough presentation of what the project is and whatever it is that is up for discussion or decision or information if this ever comes back. But this is just a good example of why these blue sheets are ill-conceived when we have up to 2 weeks before any standing committee meeting date to try to become familiar with the information in the packets. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Townsend. As your chairman, I just wanted to ensure that to remind not only the body here, but also the public and those online, that this was a discussion only meeting. There was be no action, but out of respect for the fact that they're here this evening, the chair took the liberty to have you speak this evening. I believe that that's the fair and equitable thing to do. You've given of your time this evening on an issue that was yanked from us prior to getting here. So with that, I have no further business. Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, I just wanted some clarity real quick. Per Commissioner Ramirez's comment, you know, the permit was issued from the NRC office. Gunner would have just brought the project forward for development of approval. I think that's where we're pointing him out on everything. And then our administrator for all this, and then also for McLaughlin, the archaeological study would be in play because there's Fed money involved. And for them to even get a permit, I did my homework on it. I've talked to our state archaeologist, and they could possibly lose their federal funding for trying to run this through. So I just wanted clarity on that they should never even gotten a permit from the get-go because there was no archaeological study done per Fed money involved. So all right, thank you.
Seeing no further business come before the committee to sit. Commissioner Townsend.
Though I think you were going where I'm going, I move to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Wakes.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites. Townsend.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Committee, thank you. Public, thank you. And it'll be probably 5 to 10 minutes. And then we'll have the neighborhood and community development standing committee meeting. 5 minutes, my understanding, 5 minutes.
see our surgeon of arms as well. Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. I am Commissioner Andrew Davis. I am the chair of the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee. Today is July 8th. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. When speaking, please speak directly into a microphone to ensure everyone listening is able to hear your comments and to ensure that a clear public record can be made. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak, so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and this current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday before the meeting. The public will also have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the 5th floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comments will be allowed during each item. Comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure, and they should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call the meeting of the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee for July 8th to order. Clerk, can we have a roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
Bynum. Davis.
Here. Thank you so much, Clerk. I'll also ask, are there any revisions to the agenda for tonight? Yes, Mr. Knapp.
I have removed 4 items for tonight. A6, A14, A15, and B3.
Okay. These have already been removed digitally that we are seeing. Okay, was there any particular reason? Was it just administrative? Was it the applicant?
A6, they want to build a tiny home and they were not happy with the staff's comment to build a bigger, they need to build a bigger home. A14, removed a lot because it would be a difficult lot to build on. A15 said they wanted to build a modern house and not follow the narrow lot design guidelines. B3 removed it with no explanation.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to make sure. All right. Thank you so much for that. If there are no other revisions to the agenda, I'll ask if we have any minutes to approve. No minutes to approve. Great. That brings us to our first item committee, which is our land bank option agreements or applications, excuse me. Mr. Knapp, I will hand it over to you for explanation.
Thank you, Commissioner. So tonight, we have a pretty easy agenda. There's not many controversial things. Oh, I'm sorry. I retract that statement, I guess. A2 and 3 are the only ones that received neighborhood group comments that are asking to remove those items. So I think I could go through everything at once and we'll go from there.
Yeah, how about this? If you can do all of the A's with the exception of those 2 where the request was for the holdover. All the A's.
So do you want me, you don't want me to present A2 or A3 to you?
Present those 2 last.
Can do.
Thank you.
All right. A1 is at 2930 North Getty Street. It's CHWC. It's in a subdivision that they're already building in. They've already built over 10 homes in this subdivision. This application has neighborhood support. I'm skipping A2 and A3. I'm going to A4. Is at 2706 North 5th Street. This is right behind or right in front of Peregrine Falcon neighborhood. This item has neighborhood and MBR support. A5 is at 3510 Lusk Drive. It's for a single family home. No staff comments were received. A7 is 5205 Custard Avenue. This house is actually addressed off Custer. Planning asked for it to be addressed off Clam, so the front of the house will face Clam. A8 is 2811 South 28th Street. This is for a single-family home. No staff comments or neighborhood comments received. A9 is at 3015 North Bethany Street. This is for a single-family home. This one will require a landmarks review and a narrow lot review. Those are only staff comments received on that one. A10 is at 816 Sanford Avenue. Or another. And then A11 is at 2521 South 12th Terrace. This is 2. He wants to build 2 homes here to sell. A12 is at 3304 North 47th Street. This one is, this is North Leavenworth Road on 47th Street. There are no sewers. So this is combining 2 land bank parcels to get to that 1 acre mark so they can build a home. The A13 is a different request, different applicant, but straight across the street from the other one. We join those land bank parcels together to get up to that acre so they can have a sewer, a septic system. Commissioner, I'll go back to A2 and A3. A2 and A3 are right next to each other. It is requested by the builder that is actually building currently in Peregrine Falcon at 2530. If you drive by, you'll see a house being framed right now on that lot. This builder wants to come in and build more homes in this subdivision. The MBR said that they want to support the Oak Grove neighborhood group's comments. The neighborhood group's comments were they're requesting a hold until the neighborhood group meeting can take place. I did provide the builder with the neighborhood group's contact information. I believe the builder misunderstood me and went around and talked to all the residents instead of the neighborhood group. So, but the neighborhood group's meeting is tomorrow. That's my items, Commissioner.
Thank you. On that comment, it actually says 7 to 8, which is today, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay, so it's a neighborhood group. Is a meeting tonight? Is that?
It's tomorrow. I
Okay.
definitely believe that's a typo. I just copied directly from the comments. I received these comments this morning at like 8:30.
Okay. Committee, before I throw this to public comment, just want any preliminary comments, and then we are going to do public comment. Commissioner Ramirez and then Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is for A9. It's the one that has to have the landmarks review. For what reason does it have to have the landmarks review?
It's in the environment of an historic district. I believe it's Parkwood.
Okay. And let's, for some reason, to hypothetical, if landmarks weren't to approve it, what happens to the option agreement?
They don't get a building permit, so they can never complete their option agreement.
I just wanted to, I hadn't seen, it's my first time being on this committee, so I hadn't seen that where there's a landmarks review, so I just wanted to see what were the ramifications if landmarks didn't denied their application. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Mr. Knapp had a question about A2 and A3. You said these are, if someone requested a hold pending a meeting, A2 and A3?
Yes, Commissioner, the neighborhood group is requesting to hold these until the end of the month, up to at our next meeting.
And the reason being, is the builder going to meet with them, or what is?
I believe so.
Okay. These are in the Peregrine Falcon neighborhood, right? Are they? I see that it says here on A3 and 4 that there's a possibility that these would be rentals. Do we know if I know that the Peregrine Falcon has recitals that restrict or limit certain things that take place in that subdivision. Do we know if rentals are permitted there.
All right, so A3 is a request from an individual to have Mosaic Construction build the home. And they say that they want to live in it. So A3 is not a rental. A2, I didn't receive any information that it would be a rental. And A4 is being built to live in.
Okay, so I was asking about the A3 and A4. Those were the ones with the hold. And I'm just looking at the notations here, estimated sale or rent. But that will be something for, these are option agreements, that would be something for the requester to ferret out if they're in that Peregrine Falcon, that there are certain limitations. Rentals may or may not be one of them. So I just wanted to put that out there and pass that on to the builder. Thank you.
We do have Terry Walker online.
Yes, Ms. Walker, please.
Yes, this is Terry Walker. I would be the occupant of A3, and I plan to build and live there.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Any other questions for the applicant?
No, thank you, Ms. Walker. That is in District 1. I look forward to seeing a lot of land that was there that's been vacant for a long time, populated now. So I welcome you. Again, the notations in our packets always indicate whether the builder's talking about a sale or a rent. So that's why I asked the question. So hopefully, welcome to the neighborhood. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Which was it A2 or A3 or both? Where the neighborhood group wanted to have wanted them to come to the meeting? Was it both parcels? Okay. Because I know you said that the applicant mistaken and went around to each resident instead of going to the neighborhood group. Does that meet the qualifications, or would they need to go to the neighborhood group?
Well, Commissioner, I provide this information to the neighborhood groups to provide their comments, so I could share their comments and views with you.
Mm-hmm.
So their comments came in at 8:30 this morning. I
Yeah.
believe they knew that they've already talked to the neighbors. So I do not think so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other preliminary questions for the committee, I will take this to public comment. So clerk, were there any comments received from the public?
No comments received.
Thank you. I'll now recognize, actually, we already did that. So the clerk, are there any hands raised by the public who wish to speak?
We do have hands raised online.
Okay. Comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. They should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. Each speaker, you have 3 minutes to speak. If you are the applicant, we will probably engage you for a little bit longer. So do make yourself known if these are one of your applications. Clerk, I'll hand it over to you on who's up.
Thank you. Our first speaker is John Jones. You'll need to unmute, state your name and residence for the record. You'll have 3 minutes. Go ahead. Mr. Jones? We can't hear you.
Mr. Jones, are you there?
He's showing online, but we can't hear him. We can come back.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Our next speaker is Elnora Jefferson. Ms. Jefferson?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, commissioners. This is Elnora Jefferson from Kansas City, Kansas. and I'm the president of Oak Grove Neighborhood Association. We're asking for a hold, and it's correct, our meeting is tomorrow on July the 9th. We're requesting at least an opportunity to meet with the applicant tomorrow, because that's our regular meeting. I might say that I also had an opportunity, I personally had an opportunity to talk with Mr. Jones, who is the person who actually spoke with the neighbors, and the neighbors that he is referencing would be the neighbors in the homeowners association of Peregrine Falcon. There are 5 homes in the homeowners association, plus the one that Mr. Jones is building. And I was letting him know the reason that this committee has allowed the neighborhood groups to talk with builders and developers and owners. And it was a great conversation. So tomorrow with our neighborhood meeting, I would like to, in fact, we invited Mr. Jones to come to our executive board meeting, which is this last Saturday, but he was on vacation and could not attend. So the first opportunity would be tomorrow. It's extremely important to us to have a functioning TIF, to have a functioning development agreement, because that Peregrine Falcon TIF has been dormant and the building's been dormant for quite some time. The TIF expires in 2025. Those of us who have paid the taxes into the TIF are very supportive and have always been of development. So this is not a gatekeeping item, but it is an item actually to get to know the builder and to make sure that we're all on one accord and what we want. And Commissioner Townsend may remember when we came before Mayor Reardon and that
1 minute
commission
remaining.
years ago. The other thing that I want to say is that let's see, Jules, I just forgot my train of thought with that 1 minute warning. But anyway, I think that's the essence of it. Like I say, Mr. Jones and I had a great conversation, but we would like to keep according to protocol. This is what we do for all other applications. And so we would like for him to be treated the same. Oh, I might also say that he's the one who has been making the statements coming forth. We have never spoken with, and I don't know if Mr. Knapp has, the actual applicant on the application, who's the Ms. Walker, I believe, and then also there's another woman. So procedurally, this has caused a little bit of hiccup, but I'm sure that we will be able to work that out in future applications. So thank you very much.
Our next speaker is identified as Jamie's iPhone. You'll need to unmute, state your name for the record.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I don't know why it says Jamie's iPhone, but I am the prospective residents of A4. And
Sir, we need your name.
oh, I'm sorry, Darnell Bush. And I was wondering, I've been told that parcel of land is in Peregrine Falcon. And is that or is that not correct?
Yeah, it's staff. This is oh, I'm so sorry. Were you done? I was going to see.
Yes, I'm done. Yes, I'm done. I'm waiting for your answers.
Okay. There's an echo. I think it's coming from your end, sir. Okay, thank you. Yeah. But before, because this is a land bank applicant, do we have any answers on that? It looks close, but I want to make sure, is this within the Peregrine Falcon area?
It's within the Peregrine Falcon TIF district. I did check the tax codes on our taxing system, but it depends on who you talk to. Some people say Peregrine Falcon goes all the way south to Quindaro.
So it's within the TIF district though?
It's actually within the TIF district, yeah.
Okay. Is it covered by the HOA that's there as well?
I am not sure, Commissioner.
Okay, gotcha. Mr. Murray, do you have some light you want to share on this?
Thank you, Commissioner. And as Mr. Knapp indicated, it is within the Peregrine Falcon TIF district. And of course, when the homeowners association was created for that area, and these are the homeowners within Peregrine Falcon, and they are, as I understand it, now formalizing their HOA for the Peregrine Falcon area. I will tell you that that has created a little bit of confusion as the builder of the home that's currently under construction in Peregrine is underway. That builder, and he's working with the prospective owners of 1 and 2, Catherine Dodd, Terry Walker. I believe those are it's either 1, 2 or 1, 2, and 3. But the builder, when he poured the foundation and basements for the current home that's under construction, in fact, he has approached the land bank office wanting to get the adjacent lots so that he can build on those lots, not for rental properties, but for owner occupied structures. And of course, he's had extensive discussions with the residents within Peregrine Falcon who are establishing that HOA. I think when it comes to the neighborhood organization, which is adjacent, and I know Miss Jefferson has reached out to Mosaic Construction and vice versa. And I think because of timing, because he's got one home under construction, and I believe it will be the largest home within Peregrine Falcon. The homes that he'd like to build next to those are equally as large. And so time is of the essence. And just wondering if perhaps you could consider approving or denying whatever you're going to do with this, and then let it proceed, him contact the neighborhood organization. And if there are problems there, then perhaps you not proceed with the option agreement. But again, time is of the essence. If he has to wait for another month and then getting onto the commission agenda, will he continue to be interested in building there? Because right now he's mobilized and has the ability to construct nice homes. So I just wanted to share that. And I know he's had discussions with, I believe, one of the realtors representing Peregrine Falcon was Miss Beverly Easterwood, who's with Douglas Sumner. I know and apparently she's working with the Peregrine Falcon residents, reestablishing or establishing that HOA. And so
Understood, Mr. Murray. Thank you. I do want to get back here to Mr. Jones, but thank you so much for that. Mr. Jones, was there anything else you wanted to add? I wanted to get to that, let this last person and finish up public comment. Mr. Jones?
Are you speaking to me?
Yes. Was there anything else you wanted to add for your application? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Mr. Bush, I'm so sorry. Mr. Bush, I'm talking to you, not you, Mr. Jones. My apologies. Was there anything else you wanted to add for your application? Right here. Okay. Can we go to the last person that has their hand raised?
Last person we have is Jamie's iPhone 2.
All right, James, iPhone 2.
Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Oh,
State your
gosh. Thank you. This is Jamie Simmons, and I am the applicant on A7 and A8. I apologize. I don't have my paperwork in front of me. I just got off an airplane. So when it comes to the address of 5205 Custer, there is also a yard extension available at 5209 Custer. I would like to apply for that as well, but I couldn't online because it's limited to the owners on our owner occupied. And so I couldn't mark that box to make it through that process, but I'm trying to build 2 homes that are the same to keep costs down. And with the side setbacks at 7, the house itself is only 40 and the lot at 5205 is 50, I believe it is. So I would like to see if I could apply for that yard extension to go along with it and have that parcel as one, so I could get that same home built and reduce costs.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions or anything for this applicant in particular? Commissioner Ramirez and then Commissioner Townsend. Hold tight, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's more so for staff. I see it 5209. Is that a structure? We know what, at the very bottom of 5209. Looks like it's straddling both the parcels of 5214 and 5209. We know what that is.
It looks like a small shed, Commissioner, but this photo is from 2022. So it is 2 years old, so it might not be there currently, but.
Okay, I noticed that and I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Ms. Simmons, you're on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
Here's my question.
I can hear you.
Okay. Your application before us tonight is for 5205 Custer. You mentioned wanting to get a yard extension. Yes, you can apply for a yard extension, but since we have 5205 before us tonight, does that mean if you don't get the yard extension, you don't want the piece of property that's before us tonight? Because that's all we can act on.
Okay, no, I do still want that, because if I have to do a different home, I'll do a different home. I have plans for both. It was just an effort to reduce costs with my builder and my associate that we could keep everything down if we were building the same home twice. But I do have another one that will fit. I just don't know how to apply for that because, like I said, when you go to the online application, you have to select a box that says you are like you're a primary residence owner adjacent to the lot. And since that doesn't qualify it for me, I can't mark that box. So I wasn't able to actually apply for that one. So I'll follow whatever steps are necessary to see if I can do that in the future. But I do still want to apply for the 5205 Custer.
Okay, that's the question I needed answered because that's all we can act on tonight.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
for your wanting to build. And also, Mr. Knapp, one more time, what are the 2 items that Oak Grove was asking be held over, and what would be the next date of a meeting of this body?
All right, so it's A2 and A3.
A2 and A3, okay.
The next date that we meet is very close. It's like July 29th.
Okay, so it's not another month.
It's like
Wait,
3
it's
weeks.
later this month. Okay. And do we know, I don't know if Ms. Jefferson is still on the phone. Do we know that the builder has agreed to come tomorrow to the meeting? Or if Ms. Jefferson is still on, if she could answer that.
Yes, Commissioner Townsend. I have not asked Mr. Jones directly that question in the hour conversation that we had this afternoon. But from that conversation, I would guess, but I would think that he would not deny that, because I know he wants to get started.
We do
But I
have
have
Mr.
not asked him
Jones
directly.
back online.
Who is online?
Mr.
No?
Jones.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Jones, are you able to speak now?
Mr. Jones, are you there?
We still can't hear him.
Okay. Commissioner Townsend, did you have other comments you want to make?
Well, since our next meeting is the end of the month, I would consider, but it seems like that's the first thing that, should be asked if the gentleman would come to the meeting tomorrow. For us to set it aside may be meaningless if he's not gonna come, but thank you for that information.
Okay. Any other questions regarding these? Well, actually, We have nothing online. I want to close public comment. Are there any folks that are here that would like to speak to any of the applications? Okay, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close public comment. If you are a land bank applicant, do stay online because we may have some questions. Commissioner Bynum.
I have a question as far as, oh, never mind. I read the answer to my question. I apologize. I was wondering why Oak Grove didn't want to meet with A4, and it's because they already did. So that was my question. And then on the applicant for A7 and 8,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
and A3 to the meeting later in July and approve the rest of the A land bank items.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Ramirez, did you have a question?
My question, it doesn't even matter because Commissioner Bynum made the motion. I was gonna ask legal if it needed to be two separate or if we could just make one mega motion.
One motion's fine.
Okay, with that, clerk, we'll go ahead and take the roll.
Roll call. Hill. Aye. Ramirez.
Aye.
Townsend. Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, on to the Bs. Mr. Knapp.
The B section is all multifamily. They're all duplexes. The first one is B1 at 1231 North 48th Terrace. This is for a duplex. I do have to note they turned in the duplex as 500 square feet each. Staff's comment was they need to be at least 750 square foot. But we're not, I didn't get any feedback from the developers since I shared that with them. But we're voting on, can somebody build a duplex here type of thing, and then planning and zoning and building inspection will enforce their rules of 750 square feet. B2 is at 2945 North 72nd Street. This is not zoned correctly. It's zoned R1. They would have to change the zoning to R2, which requires another public meeting through planning. And there are duplexes of around this area, so it wouldn't be abnormal. The next one is B4, is at 1119 State Avenue. This is joining two lots to build one duplex. Commissioner, that's all the Bs. I can go on to the 1C one that we have.
Yes, please do.
All right, this C is the commercial one that we have. It is at 834 Scott Avenue. The applicant actually owns 832 and 828 Scott Avenue. The plan is to join all those together to build a business for his lawn care company. He would have to also change the zoning of this area to C3, so this would require another public meeting, and this is not, there is C3 surrounding this property also.
Okay. To get the show on the road, committee, I'm going to jump to public comment and then jump back to questions. So clerk, do we have any comments received from the public?
No comments received.
Awesome. I'll ask, are there any folks online wanting to speak to any of these applications?
No hands are raised.
Okay. For the folks that are here, any folks in the room want to make any comment on these applications? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, any questions regarding these items? Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is going to mirror the landmarks review. If they don't get their change of zone, I'm guessing their option agreement doesn't go forward, correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
All right, just making sure. Thank you.
Any other comments, committee? Is there a motion?
Bynum, I would move to approve B1, B2, B4, and C1.
Townsend, second.
Thank you. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Townsend. Aye. Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Mr. Knapp, the last 4 items are our holds. Take it away.
The last 4 items are the ones that I removed at the start.
Oh, gotcha. I thought those were, okay, I thought these were items that we previously held and, okay, all right. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Knapp. Committee, I'm gonna take some liberties. We have livable neighborhoods here that have been patiently waiting. So ladies, please come up and please take a seat and make sure we have some microphones to accompany them. Thank you so much for your patience here. We do have a livable neighborhoods presentation that will inform this amendment to the community benefits ordinance. And so I want their presentation to go first, and then we can talk about what's before us for the community benefits ordinance. And so thank you all so much for your patience. I'm sure you all know how to work the microphone. So yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself and take it away.
All right, thank you so much for having us here. We're with Livable Neighborhoods. My name is Kayla Hauer. I'm the program coordinator.
Good evening. My name is Mina Chappelle, and I'm the neighborhood liaison.
All right, and I'll start us off here with a quick overview of Livable Neighborhoods. Oh, I've got to press the button. Okay, so most of you are familiar with Livable Neighborhoods, but I'll give a brief overview for those who are not. We're a unique partnership between organized neighborhood groups and the unified government. We really have 2 separate entities. We have the Livable Neighborhoods Division, which is a division within the unified government. And we have Livable Neighborhoods Task Force, which is a resident-run 50c3 nonprofit. I serve at their request as their executive director, and they really guide a lot of the work that we do. Right now, we have 55 registered neighborhood groups and 8 neighborhood and business revitalization organizations contracted with the unified government. Last fall, we embarked on a strategic planning effort with the Livable Neighborhoods Task Force, and they identified that neighborhood level connectedness and neighborhood level public safety were the 2 items that they wanted to focus our efforts on this next year. This really goes along with a lot of other efforts that are happening among the UG. So we have the Community Health Improvement Plan with the Health Department, which is the CHIP. Through that program, we have been identified as a lead agency for violence prevention, focusing on community connectedness. More public trust, more interaction between neighbors leads to safer, better neighborhoods. We're also working with multiple other departments on the Communities for All Ages efforts, which also feeds into the CHIP and our Livable Neighborhoods Task Force strategic plan. Out of that, we have a couple of different committees that have sprouted and are beginning some really good work. So here's our highlights for this year so far. We were able to secure $42,000 for Livable Neighborhoods Task Force in private grant funds. That was from Health Forward Foundation, and we're very grateful to them for that funding. Those funds were distributed directly to neighborhood groups for their efforts. So that went through Livable Neighborhoods Task Force directly into the community. We established the Community Connectedness Committee. They've brought up issues such as sidewalks, the need for new sidewalks, and especially repair of sidewalks in disrepair, building relationships and trust with neighbors, language access, both for neighborhood groups, but also language access within the unified government. Loose pets and especially loose dogs has also been an issue that's been brought up. Again, we're a trusted partner for multiple UG departments and divisions, specifically public works, planning, property maintenance compliance, and community development, but we're happy to work with all divisions and departments in the UG. I'm going to pass it on to Mina.
We're going to move into our minor home repair program. So in addition to several resources that we offer through our division, we also offer minor home repair services. I don't know how to work the thing out. So a review of 2023 of our program. The program duration was from late February to late September, but all of our funding was fully committed in June, which shows that home repair services are a huge need in Wyandotte County. We get just under $60,000. We sit at $58,393, and that funding is allocated from the city general fund. And with that, we were able to complete 24 projects in 2023. We were able to complete those projects thanks to partnerships with 6 community nonprofits and 2 private contractors. And I'd just like to take this moment to highlight a couple of those community nonprofits. We have a few MBRs on the list, such as Rosedale Development Association, Turner Community Connection, Groundwork Northeast Revitalization Group, but also other community nonprofits such as A Loving Space Foundation, Separate Center, KC, and Hope Builders. The program requirements is that applications must be for properties located within Wyandotte County. The homeowner must occupy the home that they're needing home repair services for, and they must demonstrate some form of financial need. Currently, we do 80% AMI. And any project must fit into the ones that you're seeing here, which include but not limited to roofing, lawn care, ADA accessibility, window repair, exterior painting, minor plumbing, electrical, and carpentry. So we saw a lot of porch construction last year. And then there is an asterisk on lawn care, and I did want to elaborate on that a little bit. We shifted from non-maintenance lawn care to maintenance lawn care for our residents that are elderly or living with disabilities, and they simply just can't get out to cut their lawns, and we don't want them to be penalized by that by PMC. Here we have an example of one of the projects we did last year. This was in the Rosedale area. As you can see, we fixed some roofing on the front porch, before and after picture, and a good thumbs up. She really appreciated the service. So we're really proud to be able to complete projects like this every year. In 2024, we've had to shift a couple of our program requirements to better streamline with Community Development Department. So in 2023, we were doing 200% of the federal poverty level. And as I stated before, now we do 80% area median income. And that actually increases the threshold that somebody's able to make to get repairs. Last year, I believe you had to make just under $30,000, but now you can make around 55 and be eligible for a household of 1. As well as if you need exterior painting, we do require that you have a citation from property maintenance compliance. We were allocated some additional funding from Community Development Department. So we got $50,000 in Community Development Block Grant funding in addition to what we're already allotted from City General. And year to date, we've completed 12 projects, and we hope to provide an impact analysis in winter of 2025, so early next year. I'm shooting for January. And with that, the presentation's over. If you have any questions or points of clarification.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Before we jump, I know there's a lot of interest from the committee. I do want to ask clerk, do we have any folks that submitted public comment?
No comments received.
Awesome. Any folks online that would like to submit public comment?
No hands are raised.
Okay. Anyone here? Okay, it's a ghost town. All right, cool. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. I think I saw Commissioner Townsend's hand up first, and then Commissioner Ramirez will go to you next. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Ms. Howard and Ms. Chappelle, right? Okay, and Ms. Chappelle, this question for you. When you talked about the lawn care with the asterisk, what was the distinction again that you were making between the types of lawn care? I just want to be more clear.
So in 2023, we offered non-maintenance lawn care. So if somebody called, they can get their lawn mowed or bushes trimmed, brush removed one time. But this year we'll go out repeatedly and upkeep somebody's lawn if they have a physical disability, or if they're elderly and they just can't get out and cut their lawn.
Well, what was the requirement to go out the first time?
That they could just request it one time, but they had to they had to demonstrate financial need.
So in addition to that, if they have the other situations present that you mentioned, they could get a return visit. Is that right? Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Ramirez, did you have something? And then Commissioner Hill after.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you for coming and presentation and kind of giving an overview of what Livable Neighborhoods is. I think, as a community, we are as commissioners, and we're talking to our neighborhood and we're talking to our residents, we throw the words NBRs and livable neighborhoods. And so it's good to have that background information for the community to have. And I do thank you for all that you do in coordinating with our NBRs and just community organizations out there. I have 2 NBRs in my district, and I rely heavily on them to provide me public input, community input, and what's needed in the community. For the new, for the shifting of the program requirements, why are we requiring a PMC citation for exterior paint? I'm just curious.
Mina Chappelle, Livable Neighborhoods. The rationale for that was that we can stretch our dollars if we are only allowing people that have a PMC citation. I found that last year I was averaging about $4,500, $5,000 to paint a house, even the super small ones. So again, to stretch dollars and do more projects like porch construction or electrical, I made that a requirement.
Okay, thank you. And again, thank you for all that you do. You guys are very well needed. And so always will support you.
Okay. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to say thank you to both of you ladies for the report on this evening. I just have a couple of quick questions. Number one, to apply for any of these services, is everything online or can folks walk in and apply also?
Mina Chappelle, Livable Neighborhoods. I do phone intake assessments and people can walk in. There's not currently any digital way to apply, but also we aren't accepting any more applications for 2025 either because the wait list is quite long.
Okay, and with the applications that you do you do it in more than one language?
I do not, but I am fluent in Spanish, so I can take intakes in Spanish as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Awesome. Commissioner Bynum.
Just to follow up on that. So did I hear you say, I think I was under the impression that all of the 2024 funding is spent, but I think I just heard you say 2025 as well.
That was a mistake. Committed for 2024.
Oh,
yeah.
So everything this year, all the funding you have for this cycle is committed.
For 2024, yes.
So you would put someone on a wait list. I know you found yourself in this situation last summer.
Yeah.
That by June or July, you were moving people onto a wait list for the following year, but that's true again.
It's true again. I'm not currently taking people on the wait list just because it is so extensive and I'm the only person that works on it.
Right.
So it's not a funding issue right now. It's a capacity issue.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you both for what you do. I really appreciated so you left out a lot of stuff that you do, and you provided the Civic Connect series this past spring that I really appreciated participating in. And I've been lamenting in conversations with friends and acquaintances and colleagues that we need about 10 times more of that than we currently have. People need to understand civics and they don't. So I really appreciated that effort and I hope that you repeat that soon. Thank you.
May I add additional comments? As Mina mentioned, with the capacity issue with staffing, it's the two of us for our whole office. So we try to accomplish a lot with little funding and little staffing. One of the things that we've been really working on this year is partnering with community development, and they've been so generous to offer us some of their funding to use. However, we're having a hard time getting through it because of staffing. We have had discussions about potential ways to use grant dollars to expand staffing. Those talks are in the works, nothing official yet, but we're problem solving. We understand where those bottlenecks are, and we want to try to make the money that we have available accessible to the people who need it. So we want to definitely work on that. I also want to echo the need for civics education in our community. Mina and I were just talking about that this afternoon, how maybe our next, we have our community connectedness, we have our neighborhood level public safety, maybe our next bubble or division of things that we work on is really civic education and civic engagement, because we found that there's a major need for that in the community. And that goes right along with improving your community. You have to know the rules of the game before you can make changes. So I just wanted to add those couple of comments.
Okay. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, thank you. Kayla, Hiramine, Chappelle, thank y'all so much for everything y'all do for the UG. Thank you. Yep. Okay, committee, that takes us to our final item, which is a slight change to the community benefits ordinance. I'll give kind of some background here. So back in December of 2023, the commission passed a community benefits ordinance. Within that, just giving you kind of a synopsis here, it is funded through half of all issuance fees and administrative fees that come to unified government as a result of economic development. So anytime somebody gets a IRB or they get a TIF or what have you, there are certain fees that are paid to the unified government. In the past, 100% of those fees would just go into the general fund and kind of be divided up. Due to this legislation that was passed in December, half of those fees go into this fund. This fund has 3 eligible expenses or categories of expenses. One is the minor home repair program that we had just discussed earlier. The second one is an affordable housing trust fund, and it's a typo on here. And the third one is licensed child care projects or programs. Just tonight, the focus is on the minor home repair portion. When we had put that in the ordinance, it was very vague and didn't really allow a lot of explanation as to who and what. What this language does is just simply clarifies that. The other items, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and the child care programs, will be coming forward either to this committee or another committee here very soon. But this one was probably the easiest fix because we do have an existing program. With that, I'm going to jump to public comment very quickly and then, we have something? Oh, okay. I'm going to jump to public comment very quickly and then committee, if y'all have questions, we'll go ahead and knock those out. Clerk, do we have any folks that submitted comment for this item?
No comments received.
Any folks raising their hand online?
No hands raised.
Okay, there's anyone in the gallery? All right, I'll let the record show no one in the gallery raise their hand. I'll go ahead and close public comment. Commissioner Bynum, you had a question.
Thank you. I have two questions for legal. Item within the ordinance, C3, where it's highlighted, 1/2 of all administrative fees and issuance fees. When we say 1/2 of all administrative fees, are we including all of the permitting fees? What all is encompassed in the administrative and issuance fees category that's outlined in this ordinance?
I believe it was the permitting fees.
Okay.
I'd have to clarify. I did not work on this. I apologize.
Okay.
So
Well,
maybe Commissioner Davis might have.
Yeah, I'll add. So it's not permitting, it would be
bonds.
any incentives.
Okay.
So if we're talking IRBs, if we're talking TIFs, if we're talking TDDs, if we're talking things of that nature, it wouldn't be permitting fees.
Okay. And it may actually spell that out earlier in this, and I just didn't see it. Because if it did include those, then that makes the fund bigger.
Yeah, so if you look at, it has definitions at the bottom, it says economic incentive, or economic incentive means public assistance that lowers the market cost of completing an economic development project.
Thank you very
right?
much.
So that wouldn't be permitting, that would
Okay.
be incentive.
That, I appreciate that.
Yep.
The next question. Sorry, where is it? D1, the change that we're making.
Yes.
Why are we striking the word repair? The senior, and we're changing that to minor, the minor home program.
Yeah, that was an error on legal's part. So within the motion, there's another change that needs to be made here, but that repair language needs to remain. It's the senior part that
I
needs
was
to be
wondering the
struck.
same thing.
You're good. Yeah, I'll make note of that.
Okay.
No, that's a
okay.
good.
So within our motion, we can make that say what.
Oh,
we
yeah,
need.
and there's another portion that
Thank you.
needs to be
Okay.
fixed as well. Yeah, that's all right. I'm taking notes. Other questions, Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this may be a question I need to ask our commission assistants. Regarding the board, do we know if all commissioners have made their appointments to that board? Again, that may be a question for our commission assistants.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, referencing C3, my question, and we may have to get an answer later, is I'm wondering for the full year into 2023, just how much money was taken in that year that would qualify as money that can be harvested for this purpose? Are we talking $1 million, $250,000? Do you happen to know, Counselor?
I don't have an exact number, but I know it was not near.
No, it's not.
No.
Commissioner, one of the things, this is Commissioner Davis, one of the things that I'm currently working on with legal. So around the time all this was passed and then people were making appointments, we also hired a new CFO. God bless Dr. Knieven, but I've been working with our new CFO so that there is an understanding on how this operates. And so my hope is at a later time, we will have more clarity on how much has been accumulated up until this point so that we have an idea of what the fund is working with. But right now, we don't have that number. When we did an analysis prior to the adoption, it was in the low six-figure range, but some of those incentives were, I mean, some of them are from 2016. So it wasn't a 2022 or 2021. It was, hey, these are incentives from 2016, 2018, 2021, and then all put within an Excel document. So we don't have that information now, but we're going to work and get it. Yeah, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one quick question in regards to, has this advisory board met yet this year? Okay, it has not met this year. And this is July. And so it's a brand new board, correct?
Yes.
When do you suspect that this board will actually meet?
Yes, so if you all see C2, it says the advisory board may meet upon the call of the chair, and the chair shall act in advisory capacity and may act to forward recommendations to the mayor CEO. So the mayor appointed the chair. It would be up to the chair to go ahead and meet. Now, do keep in mind, we still have to do some clarification on the child care program portion and the local housing trust fund portion. So it's not necessarily to our detriment that this particular board hasn't met, because it's taken us some time to add the clarification of what we mean when we say minor home repair, or what we mean when we say local housing trust fund. But the process is in place, the appointments are there. The last touches are getting the final balance of how much is in the fund, and then of course, clarifying these eligible categories for expenditures. Yeah, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that same subject, I thought I saw at the time I made my appointment some months ago that there was a proviso that there had to be a minimum amount of dollars in the fund before a meeting could be called. Do you recall that or know how much that is?
Yes, so if you all go to section F, allocation, it says allocations made pursuant to this section may occur starting June 1st, 2024, or when the benefit funds total at least $500,000. And so we're eligible categories. So, yep. It's all, we are building this thing as it goes. So, yeah, I appreciate, these are really good questions. So, yeah, Commissioner Bynum.
I would make a motion to approve, but I believe that you've got some language.
Yes. So the two things that need to be changed, and I've spoken with, so Jeff Conway had been working on this. So the October 1st, 2024 is actually not the appropriate date for when this fund should start accumulating. It should have been January 1st of this year. And so what I will do is, just to help everything out, and Lego, please follow this motion with me. If it pleases the committee, I will move to approve this item with the following changes. For section C3, the date should be January 1st, 2024, not October 1st, 2024. And D1 should say the minor home repair program. The senior portion should be the only strikeout for this particular portion of this language.
Correct.
Does that work?
That works.
Is there a second?
Second, Ramirez.
Okay. So there was a motion and a second. Does everybody understand the motion, the second? Okay, the edits that were made, it's going to say minor home repair program, and then it's going to be January 1st, not October 1st. Those were the two things. So just want to make sure the public and everybody's made aware. Okay, with that, clerk will do the roll.
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much, committee. We'll have some other really exciting things with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund coming. That's going to be a heavier lift. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I am so moved.
Ramirez, second.
All right, clerk, can we have the roll?
Roll call, Hill. Aye. Ramirez,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.